So everybody, roll call, no, yeah,
You ready?
yeah,
Director Bernstein?
Present.
Director Bloom?
Here.
Director Jones?
here.
Director Crawley? Present. Director Swan?
Yeah. Okay, can we stand for both of you? Over there, Rob. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We just looked at our closed session and there's no reportable action item at this time. So any public comments, Ms. Galloway?
President Jones?
Yeah.
So I have a public comment, or you want me to go?
Yeah, we need to get there.
You're a VIP, Elizabeth.
VIP.
No introduction needed. No introduction
You
needed.
know, I know who I am.
No, we all know who you are.
But for the record,
I would say I am a proud mayor of the town of Appleton, and I want to be here tonight to acknowledge the hard work that our liaison to the fire board, Appleton Council Member Diana Hawkinson Willian, has done over the past 5 years of being on the town council. And she was a former mayor, and she's been the community liaison to the Appleton Progress Fire District. Her efforts to make Appleton, as well as the Menlo Park and East Palo Alto Fire District Board, safer for all of our residents is very, very much appreciated. Her resignation from the Appleton City Council effective September 1st, as well as from the Appleton Menlo Park Fire District Board as liaison, will be missed. We wish her the very best in her future endeavors on Appleton ADAP board, of which I have heard that she's going to be very involved with. So I'm very happy about that because it will continue to interface with the fire district board. And so that's my public comment. I want to acknowledge.
thank you.
And we have a raised hand on Zoom, so.
Oh, we do? Okay. Okay. Wait on Zoom.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Yeah,
Okay, hi. Good evening, members of the Fire Board and Fire Protection. As a longtime Menlo Park homeowner and a mother of a Menlo Park fire medic, I am here tonight to express serious concerns about the proposed housing development on the downtown parking lots, specifically regarding its impact on fire safety for both the residents and the first responders. The Fire Board has a responsibility to prioritize public safety, and I know there is particular concern regarding how the proposed downtown housing project on the parking lots will affect both residents and the first responders. Increased fire load from combustibles and the potential for evacuation failures are serious hazards that must be addressed before any development moves forward. With already limited infrastructure, especially water supply, we simply cannot afford to add another 1,000 residents in such close proximity to perimeter structures, many of which are older wood frame buildings. These structures significantly contribute to the fire load and create the risk of rapid fire spread that could impact the entire downtown area. Modern construction materials tend to burn faster and hotter, and when combined with the plastics commonly found in furnishings and electronics, they produce highly toxic smoke. Additionally, the inclusion of the EV charging infrastructure introduces even a higher potential for toxic byproducts, especially under fire conditions involving lithium-ion batteries. These evolving fire dynamics put both residents and firefighters at greater risk. I urge the Fire Board and fire protection authorities to take a proactive stance. If you see a potential hazard, please say something now. We should not wait until the developers submit the RFPs. By then, it may be too late. It's already clear that most of those lots lack the space for safe new construction. When code required side setbacks are applied, the remaining buildable area is too narrow to accommodate any meaningful structure. We do not want another 2700 Middlefield incident. We cannot allow the state to mandate housing and forego safety issues at the expense of their constituents. This is a matter of public safety and long-term community resilience. Let's act now before there's irreversible decisions that are made. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else, Michelle?
What was the speaker's name?
She didn't give her name. And that's okay. She's supposed
I didn't hear.
to. She didn't give her name. She just said she's a.
Good, okay. Also, you can see that under the update, the newest things were the plans, being resubmitted to the City of Menlo Park Planning Department on August 20th. Plan review comments are due by the end of September. City has now issued an RFP for consultants for our CEQA review. A number of consulting firms are going to be given that RFP. And then we are in discussions with St. Pat Seminary, ongoing conversations about landscaping, staging of equipment, and a number of other things related to that. Those are the significant updates with Station 1. I think probably at next month's facilities meeting, we'll probably have a more robust communication with the facilities committee, and we'll come to the board with a little bit bigger report on an update with Station 1, because we have our community meeting coming up in November, and things are starting to move along. So, stay tuned for more information at next month's board meeting on that. Update on the community engagement unit. This is Heather and Amandeep's shop. They've been busy as they always are, presentations and classes. They had a senior safety presentation for residents at an apartment complex in East Palo Alto. Did a Red Cross Ready presentation for residents at another apartment complex in EPA. Held a CPR class for employees at a business in Bellhaven. Did a Stop the Bleed class for residents at a senior apartment complex in Bellhaven. Did wildfire emergency preparedness presentation for ADAPT and Atherton. CPR class for teenagers at the Young Men's Service League. Monthly community Stop the Bleed and CPR classes that are just ongoing. A station visit tour at Station 2. They supported our monthly museum open house. I think it's on the last Saturday of every month. Over at Station 6. Supported a neighborhood block party with an engine visit and a booth at the Menlo College student event. Also, the CERT team members volunteered and helped. We had a national training at the rescue site this past weekend for canines, and so CERT members. We love our CERT members that they're also usually our community volunteers. So they volunteer to be live rescue victims, and we plant them throughout the rescue site so they can be found by dogs. So that's always fun day for them and for the dogs and the canine handlers. And our latest CERT Academy just started with 17 participants, so good showing. 17.
17.
Yeah, it's a good sized class, which is great. Moving on. The fire response analysis report is included. There's no significant changes on that. I will share. I'm not gonna dig into that because that would be a big topic of conversation at our special study session that we're gonna have in October. And we'll be digging into our data and maybe adopting, or at least talking about adopting some specific metrics that are applicable to the fire district. New development update. This is, there's always conversations and questions, as we even saw through our public comment about things that are going on in our community. The downtown parking is one, obviously 80 Willows one, we have them. I was just chatting with Chief Schleiss earlier today about creating some kind of ongoing list that we can just attach to the chief's report. So look for that next month. We'll have some kind of listing for you about the status of projects that are kind of in the queue on our kind of an awareness level, things that have been submitted, things we anticipate. You know, for example, the downtown parking one, as everyone's read in the paper, they're putting out an RFP for developers to submit proposals. We don't get to look at what those proposals are. We won't likely see them until just after the first year will be our first glimpse of them, but we would like to put it on your radar so you can see we're paying attention to things. And to our projects, whether they're in any of our 3 cities or in the unincorporated areas, we're gonna make a first attempt at giving you a list next month. And we'll be looking forward to feedback on that. And then we can have conversations of any concerns or questions you want. Special study session. Our first special study session has been put on the calendar for Tuesday, October 14th from 6 to 9 p.m. Location EBD. We're looking for someplace other than this classroom. And the 2 topics on there are going to be related, as I just had talked about, developing and understanding response time metrics and trying to develop some response time goals for the fire district, as well as a topic on EMS and what can we, the fire district, do differently to improve EMS services to our community. So looking forward to the conversations with the board on that. And that will be in just a little under a month. Also a reminder that our pancake breakfast is coming next month, Saturday, October 25th at Station 1. So please join us in celebrating with our community, a little gathering of fun and food right here. Just the ecumenical hunger program is our ongoing connection with the community. We had a volunteer event and poked out in the, I'll say not the food side, but the shop side. And we go over there and hang clothes, fold clothes, sort clothes, whatever they need. So it's always nice to connect with our community down in East Palo Alto, a nice team building event for us and over at admin. Interesting, kind of big news for us. As you know, we had been working with Quake Technologies to kind of R&D and develop a product that will allow us to have helmet mounted kind of what they call see-through technology. Finally, it is here, and we should be taking delivery of the first 16 units within the next couple of weeks.
Okay.
Yes, very exciting for us. They owe us 42 units in total, but their initial rollout to the pioneer departments that are kind of the first to come to it, just 16 units, and then probably within a month we'll have the remainder of our units. But really exciting technology. It's basically a computer and a screen that attaches to our helmet that lets us look through smoke, dark, whatever. You can see images, heat images of the fire, of people. It actually has AI technology that it processes and it shows you the actual outlines of internal structural members. So you can see the hallway, you can see staircases, you can see closet doors. Those are things that you can't see with the old thermal imaging cameras, but you can see with this new technology. And it drops breadcrumbs. So if you're lost, you push a button and look behind you, and it will show you the way out. So really interesting, innovative technology. Thank you to the board for having the vision to support this. Back when Chief Shopperman came forward and asked for some money, that that money that the district spent back then guaranteed us, first of all, first to get the product and also at a discounted price that's well above the number that even the other Pioneer departments are getting. So, so excited
Yeah.
to see
We had
that.
a great relationship.
Maybe we'll bring a unit over here and share it with you
We
at some
should-
point
we
in time.
should.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool.
Can we do that at the pancake breakfast?
Let me check with Chief Ellis and see if it's ready. Yeah,
Okay.
but that'd be great. Deployments, everybody is back, but I will share with you, and I shared that we sent a number of units, strike teams from San Mateo County Engine 101 and 104 to the, what's the name of the fire that everyone went to get?
Go to TCU?
They went to TCU, they went to the Pickett in Napa, was one of the first ones.
Oh,
Okay.
right. I got it.
So we also interestingly sent, was that where we sent our Swiftwater team?
They went to the Garnett Fire Ground.
Interesting thing that you don't usually see a Swiftwater team getting deployed to a wildland fire. But it turns out that the wildland fire was on the other side of a river and they needed people who were qualified rescue swimmers and that had boats to be able to move firefighters across that river. So we, I think, partnered up with Marin County and had a team of Swiftwater folks that could transport firefighters across the river. And then Chief Wordinger just came back today. He was on task force also. Then very quickly, just this past Sunday, we had our annual memorial at Kenyatta College, honoring those that have died in the line of duty. We have 3 names that we read every year and ring a bell for, and that's Leroy Pitlock, Brian Dixon, and Rich Hall. And then also we recognize retired members that have passed away in the last year. We rang the bell for Chris Zond and Gary Susanetti. So really neat event, always moving. Usually we have partners and spouses that are there that will lay a rose down also for loved one that we're missing. Then continuing item, city council meetings on September 2nd. Attended the East Palo Alto City Council meeting. Outstanding staff reports, the internal controls policy, as I mentioned last month, that will come off of this one. We bring the consultant in. And so we're not gonna do whatever the board will end up getting a report. I'm not gonna do a specific staff. We hired a consultant to address the internal controls policy, electrification of fire service vehicles, and the Palo Alto Airport expansion. Those will either be covered in a special study session or I'll bring a staff report, hopefully before the end of the year because we'll get that figured out after our first study session. The discussed response times that was added in a previous meeting is going to get addressed at our special study session. And then we had 2 incidents, 2 structure fires, one in the 200 block in East O'Keefe and East Palo Alto on August 16th, and then another in the 3500 block of Haven Avenue in Menlo Park on September 2nd. That concludes my report.
There are any questions, Robert?
No, I just, well, Chief, I want to thank you for having Engine 5 go to Suburban Park. There was a street dance there, and not only was the engine company well received, but also Menlo Park Police Department was also there too. So when we had talked about emergency prep committee, but we have specific volunteer groups that are identified, but the chief has used his discretionary power with his staff to have these small little community engagements. Thank you, Gage, too, since you read the unit, so. I just want to bring that up. Thank you.
Jeff?
Chief, I wanted to ask you 2 questions. One related to the Quake Ski product.
Yes.
Would we be taking those to remote sites, deployments and so forth?
Well, I'm trying to think if they would end up on, if we deployed on a strike team, my guess is they probably would have them with them, but yeah, their intended uses here for structure fires here in the county. That's the initial intent.
Is the power for those internal or?
Yeah, there's a battery and we have to, so it's all, the battery is located in the back of the helmet along with a CPU, a processing unit back there. And they need to be charged up. They have a certain useful life. Engines will have chargers on.
I wanted to ask you about the incidents also. You have
Oh, sure.
two fires on here. Do you only report on fires or would you report on
Oh.
medical and other kinds of?
I'll
things?
report on something significant. Last month, I talked about a vehicle incident on the 101 that resulted in a fatality. So generally, if it would have to be significant if it was a medical incident, so possibly. I will share, though it's not on there, we did get a report just this morning of a CPR save. I think happened on September 2nd, which is notable. It's not often that you end up people going into cardiac arrest. We had a Menlo Park police officer that started CPR, which is awesome. And we got there and the gentleman walked out of the hospital 2 days ago. 54-year-old pouring concrete, hot day. Thought it was a heat emergency. It turned out to be a cardiac arrest, and early interventions, especially with our police officers, which is just great. So we reached out and shared that with the Menlo Park city staff. But yeah, it's pretty cool to see it all happening together.
Well, that's one of the reasons the response time and the EMS discussion are so important.
Any other questions for the chief? Thank you, chief. I want to say I had an opportunity to go and put on the quick.
So the see-through technology,
Yeah, it was, it was amazing to be able to walk through the smoke and to see folks, I mean, I could see where that can be a lifesaver of itself. So moving on to, I think consent calendar. Anybody have anything to pull off? I want to pull item number 3 myself. There's a question I have on this report. Anybody else want to pull anything? Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent calendar with the exception of item 3.
Motion been made. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second, is there a second? Any board calls or questions? If not, roll call, Michelle.
Dr. Bernstein?
Aye.
Dr. Bloom? Aye. Dr. Crawley?
Aye.
Dr. Sano?
Aye.
Dr. Jones?
Aye. Item number 3 is the treasury report, and I just have one question. Give me 1 second. I have my finger on it. Oh, on page 34, which is page 6 or 7. Could you, Elaine, elaborate a little bit on the Philanthropic Venture Foundation?
Yeah, so this one is, our, I wouldn't say designated, but, we partnered with this, company, we are 501(c)(3) organization. So basically when we receive like donations, it gets to them. So it's like a pass-through entity, for donations.
Okay, so Philanthropic Foundation, you say that we use them as a holding for 501(c)(3)?
They're a 501(c)(3) company, so basically they're a nonprofit. So basically when, let's say, someone like, or a company or an individual wants to actually donate to the district, they can actually donate directly to us, but in the past, they actually have donated through like PVF, which I call them.
Yeah,
And then when we need the funds, we just contact, PVF, or we need the funds for this purpose, and then we actually withdraw the funds from them. So basically, they're a pass-through entity for donations to the district.
so do they actually, when a donation need to be made somewhere, do they actually screen a recipient, a potential recipient for the?
No, anyone can actually donate, like for any purpose. Let's say I can donate like $5,000 for, let's say, improvement for fire prevention, let's say. So they can actually donate directly to us. But then again, this is, a donation like, from years back that we actually haven't touched. because, we don't have like a need for it, but for now. But, essentially, when we need it, like, we can like withdraw the funds, from them. But in terms of like, like some sort of like eligibility, who can donate or who would donate, like, there's nothing like that, so.
I can share a little history on this, because I'm the one that actually set it up 15 years ago or so. When I was leading the task force, we had people that wanted to make donations. There was no vehicle to do that at the time. And so this was established, essentially this philanthropic organizations out of Oakland. They operate as kind of a bank for different agencies and charities. So you donate to them and then you have an internal account. So essentially, we have an account with them.
Right.
Under which they collect donations that are addressed to us. They put them in our account. They deal with the donor letters and the tax letters and the legal 501c. And then we can put in requests basically for that money, under which the district essentially is withdrawing money from that account and applying it to align to the donor's desire as far as expending it. And so, but it's kind of historical. I don't think it's fundamentally changed in value much. Because I think the rules over the subsequent 10 or 15 years kind of got clarified about being able to donate to public agencies. But there's a lack of clarity on that some 10 or 15 years ago.
So, thank you for that, good information, helpful for me. Because I know, what I know is that during the COVID period of time, that funds were donated, given to that particular foundation, Bill Somerville and his group.
Yeah.
And it was used as, for some groups in the community to, and Chuck can probably recall, if you part of the group, that were given some money to do some work within the community here, and I know in East Palo Alto and Menlo Park. And it came from that fund. And then there was another individual I know that donated $10,000 to the fund. So I just wanted to see if the process for accessing funds, I know they had a procedure for that. And I know everything came through the district, then went to the foundation. If that process, I guess I assume it's still in effect in terms of access.
Yeah, it's still the same, like, process, where we want to actually get the funds out of it. So basically, it's pretty simple. So we actually just, provide them a formal request, which is, signed by the fire chief.
Okay.
Like outlining, how much you want to withdraw, like for what purpose. Then we send them out, and then, of course, after that, they process it, they send it to us, like a check or, out PC for payments.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yeah, I will share in the 3.5 years I've been here, the monies have only been used for district purposes.
Right.
None of it's been, since, like I said, 3.5 years been distributed to any outside groups.
Well, I remember like, money was collected for like the K-9 team and like the insurance, fund for the K-9 dogs, the rescue dogs. So I don't know, I mean, so a lot of, from what I remember, and I could be wrong, because I haven't really paid attention to this as much, is that the money is actually kind of earmarked. It's pretty, some of the donors have been very specific for what they wanted to
Right.
donate to, like for the dog insurance kind of thing.
And just for information, since this was set up, the task force has also set up a separate 501c3,
Yes.
and they take donations
For the
to
dog.
support the dogs,
Yeah.
other task force expenses, and then I think as Director Bloom indicated, the district is actually able to receive funds directly. We had a bequest from an estate, and it's fully tax deductible to them, so we can provide letters, so.
Yeah,
I think, yes.
You're correct. I mean, the initial reason it was set up is the district at the time would not allow the task force to set up a 501c of its own, for whatever reasons I was involved. I was only in the part of the answer that said, no, you can't do that. Because they tried to initiate that, and so this was a way that we could still be able to collect donations and have somebody else administer the donations without it being the district directly. But the chief's correct, the task force now has its own 501c. But this philanthropic funds was not task force specific, had to be district wide. Although the only one promoting donations and pointing donors towards it was the task force.
Right.
I don't know what's happened in the last decades.
That's good to know. We'll circle back around to that a little bit later on. Can I get a motion if there's no other questions on?
So moved.
Motion been made, is there?
Second.
Or the big party second, so. Any other questions? If not, Michelle?
Director Bernstein,
Aye.
Director Bloom,
Aye.
Director Crowley,
Aye. Sorry,
Director Slaughter,
Aye.
Director Jones.
what? I didn't do it twice. Aye.
No, I did it. You did it for me, even though we said.
That
aye
felt
at the same
twice?
time.
Okay, it's a little late here. Let's go, move on to item number 4. I guess Chief, item number 4,
Item 4 was on consent.
consent, we,
So we're on
One
item
that
five.
they
Five.
did.
ooh, the big one,
Item 5
item 5.
is I'm gonna turn it over to Chief Schleiss. Hopefully everyone's had a double show on espresso.
Yeah.
I don't know, after
That's
reading
your
this
readings,
report,
all
I really
732
didn't need to.
pages.
I
Kind
tried.
of hurt myself carrying this.
Yeah. Hector?
I got really worried when I heard the first reading of this. In other words.
Considering this, the size of the document, right?
We'll be here to midnight. Wait,
Waive the first reading.
wait. Just wait.
We have a lot of questions.
No?
Want me to read actually the whole entire thing, or does someone else need to read it for the record, just making sure?
Just read the title.
Exactly, yeah. And the clothing.
That's what I meant, right? Item number,
Oh, you don't have to do anything. When they make a motion, we can take.
okay, copy that. Well, I'm here to talk about the fire code update, it's been 3 years, I'm sure you've sat through this before with previous fire people. Give you a little background, the we update the fire code every single 3 years. In 2024, the International Fire Code released their version of the code. It's produced by the International Code Council, ICC. And then a year after that, California takes the International Fire Code and makes their amendments for California specific and comes out with the California Fire Code. You might see a bunch of different dates, like the 2024 Fire Code for the International, and then 2025 California Fire Code, so it's 1 year after. And to make it even more confusing, we don't officially adopt 2025 California Fire Code until January 1st, 2026.
Right.
And it's good for 3 years from that point. I know it's super confusing. It took me a while to actually get used to it too. But what we do here, we actually have our own local ordinances and ordinances for all the cities. So we make specific amendments, makes it more strict for local specific areas, specific to our areas, because our areas are different than the rest of the state, right? We have local geographical, topographical, climatical changes that happen here as opposed to somewhere in Palm Springs. It allows us to make that change. So in the report, I gave a whole bunch of information of what we're actually here to do today. So we're here to adopt the first reading or go through the first reading and adopt by reference or introduce, thank you. Introduce the first reading of the ordinances that will be applied for Menlo Fire Protection District and the city of Atherton, the town of Atherton, city of Menlo Park, city of East Palo Alto, and the unincorporated portions of the county. So that's why it's such a thick document, because there's multiple ordinances for all those different jurisdictions. And then we'll formally adopt the standards and guideline manual, which is the big thick document that's in the package you guys printed out. It's 45 pages, double-sided. And inside the code, what we do is we make technical changes. And then we kind of clarify some of the new standards and new things that are coming out, because the building industry is always changing. They're always coming out with new technologies, and we need to keep up. To give you background, I worked on the 2025 fire code back in 2021. So we finished that fire code in 2022. It took 3 years to get to where it is now. So all the language that you've seen change in the 2025 fire code, me and a whole bunch of other people in the state worked on this back in 2021 and 2020. So we have to make local changes because the code's always gonna be out of date. It's always behind, it's always 3 to 6 years behind. So us being allowed to modify the code and make more local restrictions allows us to kind of keep up with the times. And that's what I did with our ordinances and our standards and guidelines. So that's just the highlight version. And then I put on the bottom, no additional requirements for residential occupancies. So we're gonna go through, I'm not gonna read it verbatim, you guys can do that if you want, but Assembly Bill 306. I'll talk about that in a second. No. Assembly Bill 306. For lack of a better word, it's a 6-year moratorium on any changes of local amendments to anything related to residential. So Assembly Bill was introduced after the Palisades fire. So they put a 6-year moratorium on any changes to anything related to residential, building codes, fire codes, plumbing codes, electrical codes, reach codes, all of the codes that we actually have to deal with. They put a 6-year moratorium. Their intent of that was to help speed along rebuilding for Palisades, the Eaton fire, everyone down in Southern California. Their intent was to make it less strict and not make, because if all the houses, the whole city burns down, the city could like change all the ordinances to make it more difficult to build. So they wanted to put a moratorium so they can rebuild these houses quickly. And that's the meat of AB 306. It affects us because now I can't make any changes to residential related codes to make, to meet our demand, except for a few caveats, including some home parking stuff when it deals with wildland. But it doesn't change what we already have in our ordinance. So if you look at the ordinance, it's gonna be pretty much the same. I didn't add anything new for residential, but our existing fire sprinkler ordinance, our existing other ordinances that we do specifically for Menlo Park will stay the same, they just won't change.
Does residential include multifamily residential?
Yes. With limitations. So that's AB 36 in a nutshell. I wanted to highlight before we get to the fiscal, some of the obvious changes in the code. I know it's really like, I've memorized this because I spent so much time actually, going through reading it and revising it. But some of the major changes was the formal adoption of the standards and guideline manual. Me and my staff all went through it and updated it. We found some old irrelevant information in it. It's 80-something pages long. We changed, there's code references to specific codes. The state likes to change around the numberings, so we want to make sure the numbers match what's actually in the current code. And then general updates, terminology, updated section numbers, and then some clarity to the existing comments. So last time we updated it was 3 years ago. We've heard a lot of feedback from the construction out there of like, hey, we really don't understand what this means. So we tried to clarify it to make it easier to understand. We aligned it to the 2025 code. Like I mentioned, the codes changed. Like 107, section 107 was a different section in last year's code as it is for this code. So we made those adjustments so it aligns with the new California Fire Code. And if anything, I removed a lot of stuff out of our ordinance because Chief Johnson had put it in there. But since then, it's been put into the code. Like I mentioned, we're always behind, but now the code's caught up. So there's no reason to have it in our ordinance, and it's already in the code. So I just deleted it from our ordinance because it was no longer relevant. Fiscal impact.
Question. since he's, I don't want him to get ahead of us.
We have a question.
Yes, please, comments.
Yeah, Gage, I'm your summary section from 1 to 4 is great. It pretty much breaks down everything that I don't know how many hundreds of pages you got there. The question I have, it's basically a simple one. It says, under enforcement,
What page are we looking at?
page 3, just,
Yeah,
or,
I see.
or, 172. I don't know. It says enforcement, our agency can maintain enforcement under existing standards without interference, but cannot enforce stricter or updated requirements unless they fall within allowed exceptions, i.e. emergency home hardening. Does that mean that as a layperson, does that mean that the fire district, if there are plans that are submitted that aren't in compliance with California Fire Code, that you can not approve them and they can't build? Is that what that means?
No, that is in reference to AB 306. We can't, so it's, without interference, so we can enforce what we currently have. But we
But you
can't
can't
enforce,
add anything.
but we can't add anything extra because of the AB 306 moratorium on 6 years on freeze. So we can't make it stricter. So normally, every year, we add something that adds a little extra, like a little strictness to the code or something that we deal with here in Menlo often. We can make it stricter, like, we could have said no more shake shingle roofs anywhere in our district.
Right, so that's gonna lead to my question. I'll piggyback off of
Okay.
Rob, if you're done, Rob.
I was just asking, can our fire district, if it's in conflict with the California Fire Code or NFPA guidelines, can the fire chief or yourself as the fire marshal not approve plans and hold up a building or construction of a building that a city, let's say City of Menlo Park or Atherton, East Palo Alto, approves, and it comes to our fire district and it's in violation of California Fire Code?
If it's in violation of the fire code, and then we would not approve the plans
So
of existing code, of what is actually currently written now. So it all depends on.
it's still
when
the
was
same
submitted.
fire code, but
Well, it depends. When you submit a plan in the 2019 fire code, that plan lives in the 2019 fire code requirements until the life of the project. So we always get, since it's code year, we always get plans in December because everybody wants to fall under 2022 fire code. They don't want to fall into 2025. So that year of fire code lives with that project until it's completion.
so I think you could help me. I mean, so we're talking about California Fire Code. If it's in violation of California Fire Code, or if it's violation of the NFPA, which some of the fire codes are taken from that, right?
So we have,
National Fire Prevention Association.
yeah,
code.
so NFPA is a reference standard.
Right,
The code is either Title 19 or Title 24. We operate with Title 24, which is the California Fire Code. Title 19 is CCR. So we operate under the codes. The code book, which is Title 24 California Fire Code, you references NFPA as a reference standard. So it's not code,
standard,
it's a standard. So
Okay.
that's one to distinguish between the two.
okay. Thank you. You've answered my question. Thank you.
Just to piggyback on what Rob says, like on that same page, we have prevention and home hardening, which is at the top of under anticipated impact on the fire district. He said that this allows, and it's the second bullet, it says this allows NPFPD to continue enhancing wildfire resilience and pursue local safety priorities. How is local safety priorities defined? I guess it's kind of what I was thinking about.
So what I
also
wanted to
with
point
Rob
out
and all
is
that.
AB 306 limits some stuff what we can do with residential construction. But there's exceptions in AB 306, that's why I reference
Right,
timber resistant vents, fire resistant siding, stuff that's related to home hardening
Yes.
They waived that we can actually, well, direction from the board, can, if they wanted to enforce the vinyl siding, cement board siding, if they want to submit something more home hardening, we are allowed to do that if the board so allows. If they wanted
And
to
so
do
that, so local safety priorities only refer to prevention and home hardening and none of the
There's
other.
very few exceptions
Right,
in
I
AB
got it.
306
Yeah,
that
I
allows
get it.
us to continue
Okay.
on to make more strict,
Okay, great, thanks.
stricter.
I'd like to follow on to
Sure.
the same line of. Does that go in both directions? So let's say somewhere, county, state wanted to change density from hundred and 20 units per acre to 250 units per acre. Would that be prohibited because it's changing the code?
That would be a good question for a planning person. That wouldn't be anything related to the fire code, so I couldn't speak on that.
Who would decide whether,
Density, changing the density of the parcel.
Yeah.
Would be the planning department for the local city.
For the city.
but they would decide, who would decide whether that was permitted
You were
under
right.
306?
Good question, I honestly don't, I don't.
Honestly, not. I think you got a great answer from Fire Marshal, it's not a fire code issue. Likely sounds from what you're at, I don't know what your specific question is, but it sounds like a zoning issue or perhaps for a general plan or a housing element within a general plan. It's a little hard to know exactly what it is you're getting at, but it's not, the housing density is not a fire code issue.
Well, let me ask it another way. Let's talk about setbacks from the property line, for example. That is a fire code issue.
It could be a home hardening issue.
Could be a home hardening issue, but we would have to remember, when we, a few months ago, we brought forth to the board the local fire severity zone maps
Yeah.
that were changed, and we have our 11 houses up and off of
Alpine.
what's the name of that street?
Was it
Yes,
Stanford,
weekend acres.
was it Weekend Acres
Alpine
or
Road?
Stanford Lands near
No,
Brand?
it's out there, there's 11 houses on one street that were in a moderate zone,
Right.
so
Oh,
the current
maybe we-
codes, using PRC 4291, 4290, which is the wildland standards, those houses don't fall into that category. We could make it more strict, we could make it, those 11 houses have to follow something by the board, but we would, we would have to justify it to those 11 houses, why they deserve to be in there.
Okay.
Did that kind of answer your question?
Yeah, we don't have answers yet, obviously, on some stuff.
Any other questions? Okay, want to finish?
So in closing, right, fiscal impacts are pretty minor. I've already did most of the work. It's cost of new code books. So I bought our plans examiner, all of our inspectors, the brand new code books. Some people like paper still. Code books now are great. They're available in a PDF as well, so you can have them on your computer, which makes it really easy to search, Control F, and you can find your language. So my younger inspectors like the PDFs. My older inspectors like actually the big books.
Big paper.
We got the delivery of all the books and the box weighed like 200 pounds of. And there's really no significant impacts on construction to residents. The only other thing I forgot to talk about was a few additions I did add to the code this year was specific to lithium-ion batteries in cars and parking garages. So NFPA 13, which is a standard for fire sprinklers, doesn't really address the lithium-ion battery car fires, especially in parking garages inside of a huge building. So what I wrote is that we need a special sprinkler design for that specific use. Like I said, the code's 3 years behind. They're almost about to release a new standard for NFPA 13 and what's required. I just wanted to be ahead of that game.
Is it just in residential there?
It's mainly just for S2 parking garages, so any residential parking, any residential
Resident business.
or business garage, or any garage.
Okay.
Not specific just to residential. And then the other thing I did with that was the very back. Like I said, we're always 3 years behind. There is
What page, yeah?
the second to last page, right before appendix B. There's a reference to section 80, which are reference standards. I added to it that we will adopt the most current version of NFPA 855 and NFPA 69, which is specific to lithium-ion batteries and how to actually battle the fires. I sit on one of those committees as well, and we're releasing the newest document January 1st. But since the California Fire Code, since it wasn't available when they published a code on July 1st, it never made it in the new code. So I wanted to be ahead of the game and have the newest standard rather than waiting 3.5 years from now to be able to adopt it. So those are the big changes that I made inside the code.
I have a process question. So this all makes sense. When I looked at this, it looks like what happens is we pass, eventually we accept this ordinance. And then the cities, do they each have to individually, and the county, pass a supporting ordinance that mirrors ours? Is
So
that the
They all,
process?
yeah, so I did it earlier this year, I know in years past, I think this came to the board in October. I wanted to get on it a little earlier this year, because I wanted to piggyback off of all my building officials and all of the other jurisdictions that we serve. So that way, when they're presenting their modifications to the building, electrical, plumbing, mechanical, all the other codes that they have to do, I wanted to sit side by side with them in front of their council members and submit the fire one at the same time, just kind of streamline the process. So I don't have to have a special meeting just for me.
Okay, so the fire code is one of many codes that a typical building department would be seeking approval from their council. And they ultimately have to adopt our ordinance city by city or jurisdiction by jurisdiction.
They adopt it by reference.
Got it.
So that's the typical process, and then once they're adopted by reference, then I forward them all 4 of them, Menlo Park Fire Protection District specific. Sorry, all 5 of them, and our 4 other jurisdictions, and I submit it to the state for official approval and adoption, and then they publish it, and then we can enforce the codes. All of this before January 1st.
Thank you.
Just for your awareness, they don't have to adopt it. They can opt not to, and what happens is then it just defaults back to the California Fire.
The state, yeah.
Yeah, then
Because
they just
we've had
follow
some of
code.
those issues with the sprinklers before.
Joe?
Yeah, I want to go back, not so much residential necessarily, but more the commercial storage of lithium ion batteries and so forth. I thought I read in here that you had added something related to that, and I wondered about the businesses.
3 different sections, yeah.
The businesses around here and so forth. Could you just summarize briefly what's changing in terms of the ability of companies to store lithium ion batteries?
So there's a whole section in the fire code, chapter 11, is energy storage systems, and it's always updating. The reason I wanted to get ahead of NFPA 855 is because the code has a list of battery technologies that were available at the time. If you looked at the code 6 years ago, you only had like 3 or 4 battery chemistries. There's so many different versions of lithium-ion battery, lithium metal battery, lithium, they're all these different battery chemistries they're trying to invent. They're always trying to invent the newest battery that's better than the basic lithium-ion metal battery. Right, so 855 addresses all of these new technologies like flow batteries and salt cell batteries and all these other batteries. I'm trying to make sure we have the most current information so we can actually make the best requirement when people come in to our district to propose these systems. I have a proposal just earlier this week that somebody wants to come in and do like a test site for this new battery technology. So we have to use what's currently in the codes, spacing, quantities, all the different control methods for these batteries. Almost all of them are allowed in some way, shape, or form, as long as they follow certain guidelines. I want to make sure our district has the most current and up-to-date information, so we're with the times and not behind the times.
Are these going to require signage or something for people to know that those things are on site?
Depends on separation distances. So if they're on an existing building, they will require signage. So a lot of people are a lot of our buildings have 3-phase power. So it's 3 separate phases that feed the buildings. And older power systems, not a lot of houses don't have them. It's just businesses. In order to develop a battery system and a solar system to power a 3-phase power, they have 3 separate battery banks to power each of the phases, and they all need a 6-foot separation between them. So we look at a lot of these things and make sure they follow the code, and all the labeling needs to be on them. There's a whole entire labeling section of all these batteries. So general public, might not know they're there. But firefighters do, that's what the labeling is for. And most of the times we protect them, they need to be behind chain link fences, they need to be indoors in a 2-hour rated room. There's all these rules where they need to be.
So on, you finish up?
Yeah.
So on older buildings that have a garage, how, I assume the way it normally works is that if there's any renovation that goes on in the structure, that's when this code would kick in. Is
Yes,
there,
currently in all of our jurisdictions except for Menlo Park, it's 50%. So when 50% of the modifications go onto the building, it triggers fire sprinklers. And in Menlo Park, the only change is 75%. And it's the only way that they would accept our ordinance as written.
okay,
But Chief Johnson did research during that time and found out that almost 90% of the projects that received in Menlo Park exceeded that 75%, so he was okay with it. Because they're dead.
for the most part.
We take 1,000 square foot house, and you add another 1,000 square feet, that's a lot.
Any other questions?
Oh, yeah, I have a lot of questions.
Well, you lost part of your time going outside, no.
I know, I had to, because I knew I had to prepare for my questions. So.
What, okay. Go ahead.
So, no, I do have a lot of questions, but, and so I don't want to take up anyone else's time if anyone else.
No, everybody's done.
Okay, so Gage, I was looking at these attachments and I'll probably just refer to them by page number, page 250.
On which attachment?
Oh, sorry. E.
And that's for,
Am I on the wrong?
I don't know. What's your bottom of the page number?
What's page 250?
Yeah, that's the third.
That's the
third
attachment,
page
yeah.
of it.
Yeah,
third page is attachment E,
yeah,
which
It's by-
is San Mateo County, correct?
yeah. So, okay, so the island community waterways, thanks for, outlining this again. I think it's really important. So if you have here that the floods have hampered fire apparatus, making a timely response to emergencies and providing needed service to the community. So like, is there any way to get more detailed information? Is, right now, it seems like the city of Menlo Park and the city, well, probably Menlo Park is like, seems to have a completely different view on that, right? And really on our side of the creek, the Menlo Park side is really our jurisdiction. So I think they may even be at odds with East Palo Alto in terms of fortification of the creek. And so is there any way that, do you have any data about, or information about what it is that's been like hampered, how many of our apparatus have been hampered, over, I don't know, I wanna say, there've been so many floods, like I was thinking back to 2017, that was a big one. I don't know, some of the more significant flooding areas, I think even in 2023, obviously there was something, or 2020, I think it was may have been New Year's of 2023, somewhere in there. Do you have any of that information?
If you're not in front of me,
No, I mean, it doesn't have to be here, but just in general, if you have, I would like to see that.
I would have to run the reports to see.
I mean, you may not even have it. I just know that there's a difference right now in how that creek could be fortified, right? And a third of the jurisdictions have, well, one of them has a very different viewpoint, but it'd be interesting to know what that looked like for us in response to what was happening that time.
I mean, I would have to, that's just me off the top of my head, I would have to look
I
at
know.
like Army of Engineers, see what actually reports they have as far as how well the creek's holding up, any plans for modifications to
But
it.
even with our own apparatus, and it doesn't have to be today, I just am curious.
What's the?
But I guess it's like the response, what is the, what was,
As a response to the hinder.
Yeah, anytime the creek overflows, it causes
but we
significant
should have
operational
that
response.
information. Yeah,
Yes,
we should
and
have,
then we get quickly overwhelmed as we saw just on the New Year's Day, whatever.
that's what I
it
think,
was.
2023, somewhere
Years
in
ago.
that, yeah,
It's really bad.
yeah. So I would, if you have any, like, how did it financially impact us? From a human capital resource, did it impact us? Just so that if we need to say something, I mean, at least we can show them Menlo Park, you know, this is how it's impacted the fire district.
We can develop.
Okay.
Yeah, Virginia,
Yeah.
also brings up a good point, Gage. We also, not only do we have the creek, but we have the Hatch Hatchie that runs along Bay Road.
Oh, yeah.
And, you
Well,
know,
that could be
if
a
that should
waterway,
ever,
too.
you know, if that should ever overflow,
Yeah.
or, you know, because of the runoff, you know, through you know, up there in Tahoe or whatever, we have that huge strip that not only, well, goes through Flood Park, you know, near my neighborhood, but also
Flood
goes
Park.
through, yeah, kind of a purple, well, it's
I know, not the same.
kind of a
sense.
coincidence,
Yes,
but.
I know.
And then it continues to flow into Fair Oaks, which is also in our fire district also. And, you know, the creek poses a danger to us too, but so does that. I don't think it's ever overflowed, that Hatch Hatchie group, but, and, you know, Atherton has some small
Little canal.
creeks and stuff that could overflow too, because of that maybe. So, Virginia brings up a good point, not only about the creek, but the actual water issues or dangers that we have within our fire district that are through the San Francisco Public Utilities
Yeah.
Commission,
That's a good
which
point.
we don't have any control over, nor do we have any control over, you know, the Creek Authority too. So.
I do know that I think the believe you're talking about, that lake is fed by the two water lines.
You mean the one in Atherton, the lake,
It goes through,
It goes into Crystal Springs, is
Yeah,
that what I think you're
yeah,
referring
that's
to,
the-
overflowing and impacting
No.
our district?
No,
no, it starts
Yeah, it's
up
too
in the
far.
Hatch Hatchie, up in Tahoe, and then it comes through the valley, through Hatch Hatchie, Aqueduct, and then, oh gosh.
So-
It travels quite a
I
bit.
do know we have, so I cross the Dunbarton Bridge when I go home every night, I see actually the water lines that feed. What you're referring to, the two Hatch Hatchie lines, are two 60-inch, 5-foot water pipelines that flow through our district. But they go continuously all the way into Las Pulgas Reservoir or water treatment plant, and they dump into Crystal Springs. That's all controlled by San Francisco Water, so I don't know how they would overflow anything, because it's a controlled flow of water.
Pulgas water.
Pulgas water.
Maybe I'm the only one confused here. Where is this discussion going relative to the fire code?
Well, I
Yes,
just did the
it-
fire code because it's in here.
Yeah, but it's just referencing.
I know.
It's just referencing the geological aspects of the
Well,
district.
the chief brought up,
It's not really regulating.
Code,
what
fire
we do.
code.
well, the chief
It's
brought up that,
acknowledging the existence. No, I'm-
yeah, but the chief brought up the aspect that if that creek overflows, we're gonna have emergency response capability. But that's not the only body of water that we're dealing with in our fire district. We're also dealing with Hatch Hatchie going not only through Flood Park, but through Bellhaven and up through Fair Oaks too, and then it goes into.
Through the,
yeah, I get all that.
let me
Trying to
just,
Lead it back to the fire. code.
yeah, I think we need to link it back to the fire code. If there's a code issue in this, then yeah, let's talk about that, but it doesn't sound like it's really a code issue. It's more of, you know, I mean, I can give you a lot of history on the creek, but that's not a code issue. So if there's a code question, Virginia, I knew you
Well,
said you had a
no, I
lot,
was
so
just
let's
wondering
just
what
talk
it
about
was
the code.
because I know, but I mean, in terms of, you know, just impediments to dealing with the waterway, maybe it's not necessarily code related,
Yeah,
but it is a conflict right now that's been playing out in real time with the jurisdictions with regard to the waterways. I just wanted to know
I
the
think,
additional info. I'm done with that,
Yeah.
that topic. I mean,
yeah,
I have other
I'm done with it
issues.
too.
okay, well,
I have-
I think
I'm
let's
finished
just,
with it too.
let's move on then.
Okay, well,
Okay.
no, I have some other stuff in
Well,
here.
it's about 8:03 right
I
now.
know, but I wanna
You've been
get-
about 10 minutes at it already, so.
I have not been in it for 10
No, I'm
minutes.
just saying the conversation been going. So,
Okay, so this one's actually a pretty big one, and it's regarding traffic calming devices in our primary response routes. Lots of new,
What page you-
oh, I'm sorry, well, I guess technically I should be
Bottom,
on
look at-
page, I should probably be on page 250. I've got them all
What
over
did
the
it say
place.
right down at the
Yeah, but
bottom?
it's, I know, because so there's 276, I've got, yeah, I think there's a whole section on, it's basically 284.
Okay.
I just had a bunch of these, because I related them all back to traffic
I don't
calming.
have the numbers that you guys have.
I know,
Oh.
so it's,
So page 15, so it's on page 17.
Of that, yeah. And I'm just relating this all back to our primary response route, especially since right now there's so much of an effort to make sure that we're getting someplace and timely response. And I got an email from a constituent who was former member of the Menlo Park City Council and former mayor. Kind of just like, wow, there are these 4 speed bumps on Middle Avenue, and I think we designated primary response routes. So I just wanted to make sure that those were accessible to our emergency responders, because, you know, we gotta get to Stanford Hospital, or we have to get to wherever to a house or a business, right? And I'm just, we have 5 speed bumps and speed tables or whatever they're crosswalk tables on Middle Avenue, which I think is a primary response route from El Camino to Olive. So I just,
What's the
I
code?
thought we were trying, well, I mean, right now, it's like, can they even be on a primary response route?
So,
Cause we had this so long ago, like in Alameda de los Pobres, they were gonna do buffered bike lanes, and I just wanted to make sure that, you know, we have at least a decent way for our emergency responders, our firefighters to get to the hospital or to a house or to a business, to an incident. And I mean, I'm just looking at I was reading this, okay, so that there'd be it's like a emergency response issues with speed bumps, concern over jarring of emergency rescue vehicles, an approximate delay of between 3 and 5 seconds per hump for fire trucks and up to 10 seconds for ambulances with patients. I mean, I thought that we were gonna be working with the jurisdictions when it came to dealing with these type of traffic calming devices for our primary emergency response routes, which we have designated. I mean, the board voted for this probably about like 6 years ago or so.
So let me pull up, I do have that map. So everybody can know what we're talking about.
I mean, we probably need to enforce something if there's a violation. I don't know, I can't make that determination, but we've gotta look at, I just don't want to impede our response times. I don't want our responders to be injured. I don't want our equipment to be broken or.
So the code question is, I'm still,
So currently in the S and G, which is the reference document you're referring to, there is a section in the S and G that I think you're asking the question about is traffic calming devices.
Yes.
So we as a district have a specific interpretation of Appendix D in the fire code, make it a little more understandable and relatable to all of our constituents. So, I'm not gonna read all through this because we don't have time for that. But, and it says traffic calming devices shall not be allowed in designated fire apparatus primary route response routes. And then visit our website for this.
Right.
This was on our website. This was from a 2019 staff report of our response routes. So it kind of highlights our primary response routes in our district. The report also broke it down into more specific. There was critical.
Not this report, the 2019.
The 19 report.
Right.
So this, I wish it had different colors on it, so you know which one was like the critical ones, like Highway 84, Highway,
82, 101, obviously you're not gonna put speed bumps on the highway, right?
So it broke down to the streets, so critical emergency response routes, these are already listed critical ones.
Yeah.
Right, that we should not have traffic calming devices on. And then it breaks it down even more to significant ones. And then it goes into the important emergency routes. I believe the incident you're referring to
I was
is
thinking of middle,
the one in the middle, that one that people have been complaining about, and I guess I have received complaints about that as well. And I'm looking into it. The middle one specifically, it's been a project for a while through the city. I'm looking more into it, and I'll have actually more information if the board requests it, why those were put in the middle, and have more information about that later, but it is in our ordinance that the jurisdictions will follow our SNG. And then we even actually have detailed like diagrams that we actually took from the county as far as how speed humps are supposed to be looking, and how they're supposed to be done. That's the code related side of it. They're supposed to come to the fire code official for approval
And
of all speed
have
humps.
they done that?
Not since I have been fire marshal, no. I can't speak for Chief Johnson because he's not here,
Right.
but from what I heard from the public works director, he was involved in a lot of the projects, but I don't have that information, that historic information from me.
So can you go back to the previous screen with the second level or second tier, so,
That was the second tier.
or the one before that, sorry, there's one with Oak Grove on there, right? Okay, so that's the critical, yeah, so that's the second tier, so with this housing project that's gonna supposedly be coming in, I don't know if it's, when it's gonna happen, if it's gonna happen. That is gonna be, that Oak Grove next to Station 6 is really gonna be crucial, so I'm just saying, all of these right now are critical, and I just want you or us as liaisons to make sure that, you know, this is enforced, right? Because there's a lot of pressure on our guys to get over to an incident as quickly as possible. We're looking at, you know, information all the time. So how do you enforce this? I mean, without hearing it from the public, how do you know that this is happening if they're not working with you?
Can I, before you answer that question, I mean, forgive me, but I think we need to figure out to get this code
Okay,
approved. And then I think administratively, I think between the chief and Kay, that they will respond to the questions or comments that people are giving them about the administrative part of it. But we
Well,
need to pass this first.
I'm not saying I'm not gonna pass it, but
No, I'm
maybe
just
you're
saying,
right, though,
We
you're
need to,
right,
we need to
Robert.
vote on this,
Yeah.
get this out of the way, and then we can, at another day, talk about how
Well,
it's
so,
gonna take place.
okay, so then
This
I
is not
would
the-
like to put on a future agenda item.
We're not there yet, so
I know,
hold
I'm
it.
just gonna tell you, this is what I do wanna put, so I agree
Okay,
that we don't need to go into the nitty
Right.
gritties about this, but for a future agenda item, I do
Well,
wanna
let's-
put something
we-
on
we're
about
not-
traffic calming
hold that
vis-a-vis the
thought.
code.
yeah, I understand that, but hold that thought, you.
Yeah,
we have
that's
a
fine.
process here.
Yeah, no, I know.
Okay, so,
Yeah, I didn't wanna go into too much there, but thank you for the information. I just wanna see how we're gonna enforce this code vis-a-vis all of this stuff that's happening.
so is there no more questions regarding, item number 5 of entertainment motion?
I'll
So can I make
move.
my recommendations?
Please.
So the recommendations is, conduct waive the first reading of the ordinance, and then schedule a second reading and adoption in the future meeting.
Do we have a motion?
Public hearing.
Public hearing.
Oh,
No,
we
there's
have
not a
We
motion,
gotta
but
have-
I'll
we have a-
move,
We have to have a public hearing
move.
first, right?
I'll move to approve.
No,
Or, no, we don't need a motion.
No, we
So-
do need a motion. You're introducing the ordinances, so if you
Please give it.
if you go into the agenda item
Yeah, I'm
title
looking at it.
and just introducing the ordinance.
Yeah, I'll
adopting by
move to
reference.
introduce the first reading of the ordinance of the 2024 International Fire Code with the 2025 California Amendments and Local Requirements.
And if I could suggest that you also direct staff to schedule a public hearing.
And I'll add that to that, move to schedule a public hearing as well.
I'll second.
Motion been made and it's seconded by Rob. Any other questions? Not, then we'll call for vote.
Director Bernstein?
Although, hey, I'd like the minister, reflect, I don't think it makes sense to call something a reading that you can't ask questions about.
Director Bloom,
Aye.
Director Crawley,
Hi,
Director Solano,
Aye.
Director Jones.
Aye, motion carried 4 to 1. Yeah, anything else?
me?
No, it's okay, no, you done for now. Okay.
Ask that question once the motion's.
Aye. So the motion is carried, okay, we're done with that one. Thank you, Cage. All right, moving on to item number 6. Chief?
An easy one.
Okay.
This one is pretty straightforward. I have Elaine here as backup if you have questions, but we were before you, I think just a year ago, because we have a red line version of the previous resolution. Through the California Fire Assistance Agreement, we get reimbursed for our employees going out on federal and state deployments when they're ordered under the CFAA. In order for us to get fully reimbursed for the way we normally pay people, they have to be part of a governing body resolution. We are asking you to approve adding 3 classifications to this governing body resolution. That's the fire marshal, the senior management analyst, that's our DFR, Owen guy there, and our risk reduction officer series. Those are the most likely classifications that could end up on some kind of federal or state deployment. We ask, in order for us to get reimbursed for paying them basically portal to portal from when they leave to when they come back, we have to have something like this on file that you can point to that shows the federal and state reimbursing agencies that this is how we pay them. So
Who's the third one, Chief?
the risk reduction officer series, that could be, right now, it's most likely would be Heather's position, and that would be if during some incident we activated our CERT volunteers and they were assigned to an incident and Heather oftentimes is coordinating, that would be that kind of thing. So that's why she's at it. We brought this to Finance Committee and it was recommended that it go to the board. With that, happy to take any questions.
Any questions, Chuck?
I'm not clear, are we changing the way we're paying people now? Are we just paying everybody the same way and some people are excluded right now or excluded in terms of reimbursement?
Yeah, what happens is we have a potential with those 3 classifications on them getting deployed. If they were deployed, we would pay them portal to portal. The problem is right now, we wouldn't get reimbursed by the federal or state agency because we don't have something on file. So we're not changing, and this is when they get assigned to some kind of emergency. Typically it's wildland fires, but it could be flooding or an earthquake or something else. But really all this does is it doesn't impact us financially, it's just reimbursement. Well, if it doesn't get approved, it could impact us financially because we're gonna pay the employees the way they should be paid. Just probably about 10 years ago, the federal government started asking us, local governments, to prove to them that this is the way we actually pay our employees. And so it either had to be in an MOA or an MOU or in a governing body resolution. And so that's why we do this. Just as a side note, I'm sure I mentioned it before, I sit on and have sat on this California Fire Assistance Agreement Committee for 14 years. And get pretty familiar with it. But this was something that was required by the federal government, the US Forest Service about 10 years ago. So it's a pretty normal process. It just ensures that we get fully reimbursed for our costs.
Let me follow up,
Sure.
just to make sure I really fully understand. Do we, if there was no reimbursement involved, if we were just paying people to go somewhere or whatever, do we pay as a matter of policy, portal to portal?
Yeah, if we send, let's just say we send something master mutual aid, right, the old school term. Say there's a fire down in Santa Clara County and it was a local government fire and somebody just said, please help us under master mutual aid. We would pay our people from the time they left to the time they came back. And under master mutual aid, there's no reimbursement, right? That's neighbor helping neighbor. It rarely happens anymore, other than for a couple of hours. Usually big significant incidents end up being covered under a FEMA declaration or end up being covered by the state. But that, yes, so the short answer is, even if we sent them and we weren't getting reimbursed, that's how we would pay them, from the time they leave to the time they come back.
And there was one more piece of it. At one point, we were talking about the different standards. It's very complex, but at what point we could recall them, how much we had to pay them if we recalled them after less than
Yeah,
1
so there's
hour.
some rules in the MOA, I don't remember what those are. Those are separate from this, and
Yes.
it doesn't impact how we get reimbursed. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I just wasn't sure.
Those that you're referencing were the labor agreements.
Yeah.
If we ask them to come, they get partway here, they're taking the phone call, there's hour cutoffs, and they're different by different labor agreements.
Yes.
I was wondering if that was part of this, but, okay, I'm there
So
now.
Robert, I
Yes.
move that we adopt a resolution modifying the classifications listed in the original Cal OAS resolution on Lake Porto compensation as noted in the resolution, draft resolution attached.
I'll second that.
I think Rob kind of
Okay.
quick at the tongue, which is just the second by Rob. What for you?
No, go ahead. I didn't hear you.
Yes, you got it. Roll call.
Director Bernstein?
Aye.
Director Bloom?
Aye.
Director Crawley?
Aye.
Director Solano?
Aye.
Director Jones?
Aye. Motion carried. Moving on to item number 8, I'm sorry, 7. I'm looking at
Yeah,
it.
I
7.
will start
We will
off.
get through the agenda faster if we get every other item.
Jerry.
I could have liked that
do
item.
it.
I've got, again, I will,
Moving parts, man.
this one's
This is-
surprisingly straightforward. Again, we do this every year. There's been a little pre-warning to the board on this, and that this was coming, and then, this is for the, we had the notice of funding opportunity for the, let's see if I say it right, 25/3/28, cooperative agreement. Our friends at FEMA gave us very short notice of, they gave us kind of a 2-week window. And then I think with 5 days left, they had a very quick meeting and expected us to submit within 4 days this entire budget. So I think as, Director Bloom might have mentioned before, we have very little control over the money. The money is what we get from FEMA every year. In this case, it's a little over, just a little under $1.4 million. We are actually in the performance period right now. It started on September 1st. So we are asking the board to adopt a resolution as indicated in the staff report. The information in there is pretty clear, and we're just here to answer any questions that you might have.
It was also reviewed by the finance.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, Rob, you have a question?
Joe, is there any outstanding balance that they owe us?
That FEMA owes us, other than our current expenditures, no, they've actually been paying, all our drawdowns, within 3 days,
Oh, great. Okay.
That's good.
So they're paying us.
they are.
Great, thank you. That's all I have.
Any other-
I'll
Any other questions? Not, can I
I'll
entertain a
move.
motion?
I'll move to accept the 2025 California Task Force 3 Star Cooperative Agreement for the period of the performance period. And then the fiscal year 25-26 special revenue fund budget by establishing a revenue and expenditure budget fund of 725 in the amount of $1,386,311.
Second.
Motion been made, seconded by Director Bloom. Any other questions? If not,
Director Bernstein?
Aye.
Director Bloom?
Aye.
Director Crawley?
Aye.
Director Solano?
Aye.
Director Jones?
aye. Moving on to item number 8.
Yes.
Okay, here we
Eight's
go.
gonna be the fun one.
This is the fun.
Interesting one. Fun. So I'm gonna start off, and then I'm gonna turn it over to Tom Owen, but just to share with you a little bit of the history, we came before the board in March earlier this year. I was asking for the board to approve a 6-month fixed term position to basically give us kind of a proof of concept and a plan for a drone as a first responder program. In my board report then, I kind of had a vision of what it might be. You gave me approval to hire a senior management analyst, which I did. We were lucky enough to have Tom Owen, who had been part-time employee doing our UAS program, applied and was successful. And thank goodness for us, we at the time in March, you did not approve any increases to our budget, and you gave me direction to come back to the board within 6 months with a plan. So that's why we're here tonight. Here's the things to note just in advance of Tom's presentation and the conversation that we're gonna have. Other than incidentals, we've not spent any money on with what we're about to share with you tonight. This is all done through Tom's relationships and some loaned equipment through a vendor. Just also some information as you're watching this, we don't have plans on this being a mutual aid asset. This is just intended for in our district right now. Someday, we hope that when people see what we're doing here, it spreads through the county and through the state and the nation. I think when you see what Tom's gonna share with you tonight, you'll be, it's pretty compelling just to see what we were able to leverage with having somebody who had the knowledge and skills and relationships. I had thought when we were first doing this, I'd be coming to you with a piece of paper, with a plan. And what you're gonna see tonight is not only some conversations about what our next steps are and proposals are, but some real life proof that what we're talking about can actually work. So where we find ourselves tonight is, as a result of hiring Tom, we have an FAA waiver that Tom applied for and got permission for us to operate a DFR program in the district. In addition to that, we have borrowed and have a functioning DFR docking station and aircraft. So after you see what Tom's going to share, he's going to kind of narrate through this and talk about what it is that we're showing you and how valuable it is to the first responders and public. The ask at the end of this is going to be a request to extend this Tom's allocation for up to 3 years, which was the kind of the original plan all along. And then a budgeted increase in appropriations of $112,000. $80,000 will be for the purchase of 2 of these docking stations that you're gonna see along with aircraft. And then about $32,000 for connectivity, electrical wiring, miscellaneous things, so pretty low cost of that. Owen, take it away.
When you thought you were getting ahead of the agenda and you invite Tom to talk about drones.
It's okay.
Yeah, it's an honor to be here in front of the board and chief and staff to talk about something I'm obviously very passionate about. I'm on my 5.5 years here, and it's great to be in this spot right now. I want to, instead of me droning on, unintended on drones, I put a video together. I wanted to bring you with me on a handful of missions that the DFR aircraft has flown. And just for definition, we've had the UAS program for a while, which is unmanned aerial systems, and those are the drones that we've been flying. We have the VAN, which is a phenomenal piece of equipment, and I've been responding to scenes for the 5 years now. The DFR is a drone as a first responder, and not to get confused with what our ladies and gentlemen do in the field, but it is typically the first on scene, and I want to show you how we accomplish that. The goal of this tool is not dissimilar to the UAS program. It's going to do something similar, but it's going to do it much sooner, and that's the goal. So what I've been doing on scene, the 2700 Middlefield fire for one, and countless others, is provide information to the incident commanders. A view that they don't get from the ground, a view from what is called the Charlie side or the back of the building, or a 360 orbital view of the problem to help them have a better context or an additional context to come up with a plan or a tactic to solve the problem. So what we're doing with the DFR, the drones first responders, we're getting it on scene quicker. The aircraft itself lives in a dock. The dock lives on a station. And I'm going to show you that next, unlike Tom who lives in a van. similar but different. So I encourage you, it's long in parts for those of us who've been staring at it, but I left it that way because I think it's super interesting and valuable information. So feel free to ask questions as we go through it, but I promise you it will come to an end. So let's go. This is the dust.
Oh, wow.
Sorry about those. Anyway, somewhere in this room.
Is there a phone?
I've just got to turn the sound down.
So this is the view of the aircraft. It left the dock. I'm controlling it from my desk somewhere. So generally I have it set up at my office or my desk at 170. I've done it, I set a similar setup at home. I've done it off this Mac. Information on their way in.
All right, I think we're gonna.
You mute your computer, so.
Yep, so I'm back on mute. So this is just really showing us some of the capabilities of the sensor. I've got a 200 times zoom on the front end of this thing, so I can get a lot of information way downrange before I get there. So we had sound. So same thing, this is 4 in the morning the other night, grass fire in the area of East Bay Shore, or rather Bayfront Expressway and University. Where? So I was able to see this column of smoke right after launch, and I had worked with Tyne Stahl on this one, and I sent him a text, because that's how it's easy to communicate, because the BCs are very busy. Hey, there's smoke showing. Okay, great. He pulled over, he looked at what I'm showing him, and then he told Engine 2, go all the way to Bayfront Expressway and come on from that side. So you'll see in a sec, what I'm doing is keeping the UPS parking lot in perspective, because that's a point of reference for it.
The UPS lot's where the last fire was, right? This is right at the back end.
Exactly. So the fire, just the one I showed you before, is just down those lights to the right under that tower. So what they would have done at 4 in the morning is come down University, taken a left and gone down Adams Court and put themselves in the UPS lot. And that's a kind of a Roach Motel situation, so it takes a lot of time to come back out of there. So,
Can you hit pause for a second?
Sure.
So I can share some things. From my perspective, if I was the battalion chief responding to this, Tom gets us up in the air pretty quickly. I mean, if you're up and about, it can be up 20 or 30 seconds, and it can actually, the zoom lens on this has incredible capabilities. So even before it actually arrives overseas and hovers, it gives our vision is that the battalion chief that's responding and the company officer ultimately will see this screen in their
Right.
station where we have the big screens in the
Yeah.
first arriving thing. That's not there yet, but we imagine it's gonna come. But like Tom was saying, Mike Stahl, before he ever gets there,
He'll know.
sees this. He's pulled over and he sees it and he goes, I know where the fire is. I know where to send my guys. You know, it's not to where it was just in that previous fire where it usually is. And so, you know, you just extrapolate that into those scenarios when you can identify the location, you can confirm there's a fire. You'll see, Tom will show you in a minute, the infrared stuff, you can see if there's occupants,
Well,
people
this
you need to
is-
rescue, you can see our folks, you know, just the information that's available to help make decisions in advance and guide our people. Is just, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is really good, that's our.
Has it helped our response time?
oh, absolutely.
By how much?
Well,
you know?
so the response times are a little bit different, right? So it's not gonna,
Yeah,
the
one-to-one.
impact on the apparatus getting there is not going to be directly affected necessarily by this. It's not in these early stages. But what it has gotten is our ability to see the incident
And know where to
before we
go.
arrive.
Yeah.
Our goal, as the chief said, is to get up and down range so quickly that it shows up in the app bay on the screen. It's also fed through down to the battalion buggies. So we talked about Chief Stahl saying it. So we've got an icon on their tablets and their vehicles. They can tap and bring it up immediately. That tablet is in front of, in both battalion buggies as well as in all the apparatus. And my next sort of arts and crafts project is to put QR codes in the backs of the engines. So you've got someone back there that if that crew is in a situation where there is time or the information in some way valuable, or they've heard something over the radio, or we see the smoke showing, that person in back can hit the QR code with his or her phone and maybe relay information to the captain who's busy doing other things and the driver clearly is not watching the screen, right? So the goal is to make the information available
Quickly.
very, very quickly before they get on scene and validate.
So they know where to go.
But Tom, in response to the response time question though, I think you kind of touched on it a little bit, which you said, the default location
Right.
for this call would be the UPS parking lot.
Correct.
The last
Where
call.
most of the fires are located.
And that's exactly.
But instead, you're seeing the engine coming down, I think that's Bayfront Expressway.
It's on Bayfront now, yeah, that's
Sun or
Facebook.
one of those, whatever you both, right? One of those companies over there. But they would not have gone there. So is it affecting response time? I would argue, yeah, it's improving response time.
I agree.
Because we're sending them to the right location based on
It's
more
efficient.
visual intelligence
Yeah.
that we otherwise wouldn't have.
Yeah, I agree, that's why I asked the question.
But to me, it seems like it would be like that because you are more focused on where you need to go versus,
Yeah.
oh, there's this, you know, this area that we know, right? that would normally happens. And so
Yeah, but
that's not the right
through that
place.
lens, you're absolutely correct. It
Yeah.
will increase, or rather reduce the response time, because they know exactly where
Right.
they need to go
I
when
agree.
there's a situation of challenge.
Well, it's the same thing on the Gates fire, the structure fire,
Yeah.
because it starts exposing the
Yeah.
exposure in the back.
Yeah,
So where do those trucks need to go? Another block over.
yeah,
And the
yeah.
later trucks coming in to protect the exposure in the backyard, so. You
I
know,
mean, it's definitely more
to
efficient.
me, this is like, to the chief's point, this is eyes on the scene. before
I
you even
agree.
get
It's,
there.
it's way more efficient.
Nice
job.
It will positively affect our response times on calls just like this.
That's what I.
From my days as a fire captain, you get, you know, multiple calls of smoke in the area and you don't know where you're going and you spend 5-10 minutes trying to figure out where the fire is, and here you spend no time. You know right where to
I
go.
was just asking, cause I think it
You
will.
know, it's right, it's legitimate, yes, it will, yeah, it's not gonna necessarily improve our response time to a structure fire, we have the known address, but on things like this, for sure. on searches, you know, if we have somebody lost in the bay or whatever it is, all those things. But-
Does this have thermal imaging, so if no fire was showing, you might still be able to pick up that something was going on?
Oh, absolutely, yeah, so we'll let this roll, we had that exact scenario the other day where a smoke investigation on Camille Drive, which is the last road before the waterway there. And the engines just couldn't see it, well, I wasn't sitting in front of the screen on a Sunday, but I got there quickly enough, got downrange, I saw the smoke and I had eyes on the smoke and was communicating again with Chief Stahl to communicate to the engine, 3 houses away from the one with the red terracotta, and then I think it was a barbecue, but still, it was finding the thing that you couldn't find, and we didn't at the end.
Let me, move on this and we'll see the,
Thermal imagery in a second, and kind of how that helps from a safety perspective of our crews, but this, I believe, is engine 2 coming on Bayfront Expressway. That's the Meta Campus, in the background there. And what I'm doing now is sort of moving to the left, because I want to see what is between the blue, yellow, red light is a CHP officer, the yellow flashing lights are Facebook security folks. And my goal of moving to the left is to see the pathway between the road and the fire itself, where the firefighter is going to pull a hose or do whatever it is they're going to need to do. There's the battalion chief going to make the turn to come back on the eastbound side, and then you'll see in a second engine 2, who has already made that turn, roll up. And that's 77 that came up there first. The aircraft is a quarter mile or more away still at this point. So here's the thermal, this is a little bit later in the scene, the truck on the trail is the squad, they showed up and they came right down the trail, but you can see the humans, if you will, there's the one on the right with the hose, there's one on the left, and there's one on the street, and they're, if you're looking at it, you can see a couple more. So you can see the battalion buggy on, this gentleman walking towards it. The battalion chief there, Chief Stahl in this case, he's looking at the vegetation. And when the fire is going, a glow through the vegetation. But that's really all that he can see. You can see how dark it is from his position. So this has for years given the battalion chief's eyes from above. Spirit, traffic accident, lots of those. This one isn't as severe as it could be, but the idea, and you'll see when the crews start to arrive, I've got eyes on this incident. This looks like a 2-car, it's actually a 3-car, there's one on the other side, you can see the damage, you can see that people are out of the vehicle, so this, I don't go to a lot of traffic accidents, and as a drone pilot, I would never go to a traffic accident, but in this situation, the scope of calls to go to is much broader because of exactly this. Let's say the white pickup was flipped over, let's say the white pickup was a Tesla, let's say that thing was on fire, let's say that people, as we've all seen, trying to lift the corner of the vehicle to get it off someone that's pinned or break the sunroof to get someone out from inside. Those scenarios are really good information for the crews as they're coming in. I imagine that they could, start to develop their tactics in the cab of that apparatus as they get there. Okay, Bob, you jump out and do this, and I'm gonna go do that. So they're ready to go before the wheels stop rolling on their apparatus. You see the truck and the battalion chief showing up, and they're prepared to block. So this is the drone coming home. It's completely autonomous. When I to fly home, I'd love to tell you the skill involved, but really to come home, I press a button and click yes. It raises the lens of the camera to the horizontal. It navigates itself to the home point, and then through sensors on the bottom will lower itself into the dock. The dock closes up. It's going to recharge. It's going to transfer the telemetry data from this. We track all of the flights, both manually controlled as well as the DFR flights, on a piece of software we've been using, gosh, for the full 5 years. We have all the flights.
So how do the drone get triggered? Does it come from you directly, or is it, because there's a call go in, and it goes directly to you and then you to the drone, or how does it work?
So today, I'm still that fire nerd that has tablet command on my phone and radios in my house and those things, so I will hear the call. The filter difference is different now. It used to be, traffic accident, nothing for me. It had to sort of meet some parameters. The beauty of this being on the roof at Station 2 is if there's something in that area that I can reach and call it 7,500 linear feet, then I'm gonna launch the drone to get eyes on. If it's almost anything except for a medical call with an address, right? If it's apartment number something, I'm not. If it's, residence, I'm not. But if there's something that's, there's a medical call at the intersection of stage for scene secure. So I don't mean to be the voyeur, but I can get on scene. I can look at that scene, and it's not me looking at it, it's feeding that information back to the crews so that they can see what's unfolding while it's considered unsafe. And then when the scene is deemed secure and they can move in, they already know what they're looking for, what they're looking at, and how they're gonna attack that problem. So it's just more information for what they're gonna do. The next phase, I would love to see the day where the drone is part of the response ticket or card or something. So those tones go off and you hear this, this engine, this truck, and this drone. Right, I think that would be really exciting. I think that is gonna be short-lived, and hopefully we'll get to an automated section where, I may not hear it on the radio, but the drone will just launch. There's a company that I've worked very closely with for years, called DroneSense, and we've used their technology for reasons we don't now, but DroneSense was recently purchased by a company called Versaterm, which you all may have heard of. Versaterm is the base layer of our dispatch software. We Menlo run tablet command on top of that, but Versaterm is the layer in there. So I could see a day, and I suspect that's why they bought it, where Versaterm integrates DroneSense, and then DroneSense is a plug and play platform. So we can take out what I'm using to fly this now and swap DroneSense in. And if that purchase and the integrations and things come to fruition, and then we deem that whatever it is, the feature set that they've created is of greater value to us, then we would most likely come back or in some way say, we'd like to pursue that technology to augment this.
What's the battery, like, that drone had, been operational, what's the battery life when it comes back into the actual program?
That's a great question. So the battery, I'll calibrate battery life in terms of how long it can stay on station. And I, on Gates Fire, was on station for 31 minutes. So it took me a minute and a half, 2 minutes to get down range. I was on station for 31 minutes, and it took me the same 2.5 minutes, depending winds and things, to get back. So it has an actual 35 plus minutes of flight time, and I landed with 20% battery, so I'm well within what we like to do with, our.
Well, for our jurisdictional.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So that's the same thing for all of our other drones. And then we standardized on that same type of aircraft in our station drones, what's on the van and the newer unit. So there's a consistency of that technology across the boards.
So, I just really quickly in next steps, I mean, we're asking you to approve right now is an extension of Tom's time and then budget monies for this fiscal year. And then the plan is that any additional budget requests are gonna come back to the board, either through the budget process, and my commitment to the board is that we will share what our progress is, especially, I mean, this is really interesting and kind of cutting edge stuff. But that's gonna be kind of the plan. We still have lots of visions for where we would like it to go. Like you said, it's just launching and knowing where to go rather than us having to rely on Tom listening to his watch at 4 a.m. I mean, it's his watch buzzes and he gets up and he goes and does it. And we don't want the program just to rely on a very committed employee, right? And so ultimately, we have 14 pilots right now in the district. We're gonna ultimately figure out some kind of rotation and give somebody the drone duty, whatever that looks like. The plan is for it to show up on our station screens and on tablet. These are all kind of things that are in the vision. We'll see we don't know what kind of hurdles or things that are gonna get in our way, but as you can see already, I mean, I was prepared just to have some paper for you tonight, and instead, we've already got something that's really exciting being used today. How many times have we used it?
So we have 76 flights on that aircraft totaling 12 hours and 37 minutes, and it's covered 92 miles. Of that, 43 of them in 8 hours and 42 minutes are actual missions. So from the dock to a scene, delivering value and coming home.
Is the goal one day to have it a drone in every station, or?
I think the ultimate build out that Tom has is 5 would cover our district, right? So we don't need it at every station. And then there'll be some redundancy built in, because it's gotta come back and charge.
Yeah.
Right, and so you would have to, if you get another call, launch the next closest drone that's within range. And it might also be that someday we may or may not always have a drone available on a call. But, the hope is that it will, and we'll just build that. Yes. Director Bernstein.
I had a couple of questions. How many drones can a single operator operate at one time?
According to the FAA today, it's 1.
Like, what do you think is feasible ultimately?
Well, I wanna say that there are drone light shows where there's one guy doing 1,200 or a couple thousand, but that's not what you're talking about. I think that the model has to make sense that the information gets to the intended target. So the goal is, I like to tell folks that I'm a radiologist, but I just take pictures. I'm not the doctor that can diagnose the problem. So my goal is to feed that information back to the incident commanders on scene to make decisions with additional information. Can I do that with 2 drones at a time? We'll see. But I think I'd rather have a room with 2 pilots in it, both being valuable members of that scene for the duration of the drone's value on that scene.
You're really the expert today.
Not radio. I just get demoted. You're trying to promote yourself. Whatever you say,
I have a couple more questions. I don't mean this, I think it was very impressive, don't misunderstand, I think, but when I read this, I didn't know what you were talking about, actually. When it said as first responder, I'm thinking that the drone wears a helmet and runs in with a hose, and I didn't know what the first responder did. But there's been talk about using drones to do things other than reconnaissance. And I just wondered if you're exploring that at all. In other words, could this drone deliver a defibrillator out on the Dunbarton Bridge when the traffic's terrible?
Right.
Or,
So to answer your question, yes, we're exploring those things. Within the overall UAS program, we have 3 separate platforms that have the ability to drop payloads. And we have a bunch of different types of payloads. So primarily you think about light rockets in the bay. So our largest format platform, if you will, has had some auto-inflating PFDs for a while. They're big and they're bulky, and it's a big thing. As the technology got better and continues to get better, we have a smaller aircraft with a smaller payload, but as have the drop systems gotten smaller to go with it, as well as the PFD. So there's a company called ResTube that we've worked very, very closely with on some of the research and development. And so they've got something down that's probably the size of 2 of these bundled together. So it's a much smaller payload. It's 250 grams, I think. It's a crystalline trigger. So we can either bolt this right to the bottom of an aircraft or dangle it in a current drop system and get it downrange very, very quickly. So we're doing that. What I think we can do, but we have, by keeping an eye on technology and working with the aircraft manufacturers and the folks in the process, is get to payloads like defibrillators, things like that.
what about, I read about a system where you can actually deliver a paramedic to the scene. Is that too far off in terms of size?
Need a CHP helicopter.
Yeah, I would love to come to you with a budget request that would do that. I think where that's going is to, and it's the great joke about, is it still unmanned if you put a man in it? It's the same sort of vehicles that we're seeing around the Super Bowl and things like that, where it's a quadcopter or something larger that can carry a person. I don't see us doing that from where I'm standing in the program now. That may change, but there's a lot more of support and a bunch of different infrastructure that goes with it. I would need a much bigger van, sorry.
Just to your prior question, a lot of beach rescue organizations around the world are now using drones. So when there's a surf rescue, the drone launches from the lifeguard tower, drops a rescue buoy to the swimmer.
Oh, buoy.
Yeah, long before the rescue swimmer can get through the waves or the jet ski can get there or anything else. But they're actually delivering, there's also some beaches that just don't have lifeguards. And so they're also being used in some of the remote beach locations where a fire department's responding. They can launch a drone and drop rescue equipment down into the water.
We do a lot of work with the FDNY and we're on some working groups together that are doing a lot of that same research, and they staff a beach in New York.
I want to ask about something else. It's not something that I'm personally deeply concerned about, but back when we were investigating some other technology, there was some talk about it within the district, and it's one of those things that could hurt the ethical standing of the fire district and so forth. When somebody loans us technology and a dock and so forth, what's our obligation to them for the next step in terms of buying the equipment or selecting them over a competitive vendor or something?
Sure, so there's no obligation, and I've had that conversation with the outfit that has loaned us this equipment. They do a lot of work with both on the agriculture side, but also a lot with public safety, so they understand the purchasing process and the bids and the next thing. In this process, I've gotten 3 bids of varying prices. The town of Atherton has a DFR solution on their roof, and I've talked to great length with them about it, and I've talked to their vendor. And remember, before becoming full-time here, I'm in the private sector in the drone space, so it's those relationships that I've leveraged to get this technology, and I've given away a fair amount of X4D software licenses to do that. But so direct answer, no obligation to do it. They understand the purchasing process. I've gotten 3 bids, and the chief and I have sat down and talked about it, and we'll make the best guy win, the best technology.
Yeah, I will share, Director Bernstein, that the loaned equipment that we have and the ones that, I think the ones we're planning on purchasing are the same as the loaned equipment. It is by far and away significantly less expensive than the other 2 by multiples. So, in the whole process, I would just say that the district is swayed to the best and least expensive, best working product. And so, I don't think it's gonna be a problem in that respect. The other technology that was out there is, I don't know what the numbers were, but we would be in the multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars in equipment masks if we were going with either of the other 2 companies that are out there.
So I want to know if, are we finished with the question? Are we ready to adopt the resolution?
Well, I'll make a motion
What?
to approve an extension of the fixed term assignment of a senior, I'm making the motion, Chuck. A senior management analyst to develop a drone as a first responder program and approve a budget adjustment to support the DFR pilot program for fiscal year 25-26, which would basically be an increase of $112,000 to the fiscal year 25-26 budget.
I'll second.
Motion been made, second, by Rob. There's no more questions. I call roll call.
Director Bernstein?
Aye.
Director Bloom?
Aye.
Director Crawley?
Aye.
Director Salon?
Aye.
Director Jones?
Aye. I'm excited. I think everybody on the board is excited.
Very cool. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Be cool and
Thank
useful,
you.
it's not.
I'm glad you want to come back and work with the chief some more.
Well.
Just thank you for your support. Like I said, it's super exciting to see where we are right now, just after 4.5 months. And
Yeah.
where we're going is gonna be great. If anyone has additional interest and you wanna go do a sit-along with Tom
I wanna do
kind of
that.
thing, go in there. He's still, you guys go.
I'm gonna ride along, hold on.
Yeah, you just stand
No,
like
you
you
just,
with me.
you're stationary.
Go to the other ride along.
It's
Yeah,
really
really.
fascinating and amazing,
Okay.
the capabilities.
Well, thanks for bringing this to us,
Yeah.
Mark, and for, letting Tom have the leeway to do this. I think it's very exciting.
Okay, we move on to item number 9, which is to discuss district funding of local community groups. You should have, I don't know if you have anything you want to say.
I will just say, we had a robust conversation about this at EPREP, and there's a request that we take conversation to the board, and
Yes.
I'll turn it back to the meeting director.
Before you should have 2 documents. One is from Steve Miller and his group, legal counsel. Since you did, I think via email, and you also have a hard copy here. And Steve, you wanna say a few words about this document?
This is a memo that the board commissioned 5 years ago that we presented to the board and that was then constituted 5 years ago. And a few days ago was advised that it was going to be included in the packet again this evening, and so we have no objections. It seems to me to be accurate today as it was 5 years ago.
So with that,
Was this your summary?
No, I didn't know
No,
that
that's-
existed until a few minutes ago.
That's
I'll let you know, that's Robert's.
Okay, and
Summary.
is that consistent with the memorandum?
I really haven't had a chance to look at it.
I can tell you that almost every word is, if you go through it, and we'll go through it, briefly. Basically, there are just, a couple of decisions that the board or areas the board need to look at. We may not necessarily get around to, all of it tonight. But I think we need to really ask ourselves first, is the district, only allowed to support nonprofit entities? We need to understand, second thing is, are there legal requirements that limit how the district should structure its support of volunteer organization? If you read Steve's memo, you would see that those are basically the questions that he outlined that we should be asking ourselves. And they're falling into basic categories: corporate structure. That's the legal counsel is not aware of, it stated that legal counsel is not aware of any statute or common law rule that would prohibit the district from providing support to an entity simply based upon its corporate structure, so long as it expenditure is otherwise legally permissible. The second area is.
Roger, can I ask a question? Sorry.
No, that's okay, go ahead.
After what problem you're trying to solve?
Yeah,
Well-
where is this coming
Yeah,
from?
Well,
are you
if-
trying to just articulate whether it's legal or not legal for us to support an organization irrespective of their legal status?
Well, the committee looked at, the question was, there are community groups that's out there, in all the communities.
They're
And
not
whether,
501c.
that, 2 of them, one of them is not a 501c yet. 2 of them, I think, are, MPC ready, as well as, ADAP. The question is not, and if you, part of the question we need to ask ourselves, first off, is this something the board think is important enough to fund? And if we can answer that question, then these other areas that I was trying to get to will come into play. We ask ourselves, in terms of a corporate structure, according to the memo, there's nothing stopping the board from saying, hey, yes, we want to fund those community groups. In
That are
terms,
not 501c3s?
that's
any
a
of
question, any,
Okay.
I think the limit, what I think the board should do is should put some parameters around that, some qualifications. So, and one of them, it could be a 501c3, and there could be other qualifications. And I don't have all of the answers to that, but I think that those are conversations that the board should have. The other has to do with, I think when you start focusing on the two areas, in terms of understanding what is all involved and whether, how legal it is and how can we, and that's outlined in Steve's memo that we talked about 5 years ago, but it's just been kind of sitting on the shelf at this point in time. But those are the areas that in our meeting that we began to talk about, and we got to a point to say, hey, the board needs to come into play at this point in time. The board needs to really direct the EPREP committee a little bit more in what it wants to do.
Has the issue come up? Sorry, Gary, I'm just curious, have any of the, I mean, where is this emanating from? Is it
Well,
like,
we spoke
you got a
about-
request
Yeah.
from? Okay, yeah, I mean,
Go for it.
you may have to remind us about the meaning
Yeah.
of the
Well, what we
subject.
did was, we also talked about a form that these volunteer groups would fill out. And basically leave it up to discretion of the chief and his staff relative to if they need to print materials or if it needs to go further, requests for training and that type of information. And as to a list of actual volunteer groups, the chief came up with something, well, what if it's not a organized or volunteer group like what he did last weekend and had Engine 5 come out and do a demonstration, but it was a community group that basically wasn't organized, but it's a homeowners group. And came out and, hey kids, come on, jump on the fire truck and whatever. So there's basically, we were talking about the discretion of the chief and his senior staff to coordinate the assistance, training, and information relative to people that came to our fire district for assistance. And as to the large funding that maybe that they would request, well, the chief would bring those types of requests to the full board for review.
And it's like for a grant?
So it sounds like there's two questions.
No, we're
if I
not.
may. There's two questions. One is, in front of the board is, should we be providing support to community groups? The second question is, are there any restrictions relative to the legal structure of those groups that restricts what we do or we don't provide?
And there's also,
Am I getting that right?
you got that part right.
Okay.
And if those answers are yes,
And yes.
if they're yes, and then if there's a no, if it's a yes, then here are some ground rules, potential ground rules that the district should think about in the possibility.
Okay, thank you.
It's okay.
So but there aren't grants or are they grants?
Well, I think part of the conversation is there's still a desire, I think from some of the community groups and some of our board members to consider the possibility of the district issuing grants of some.
Right, so
There's also help that we would give to any group, right? There's neighborhood groups that have a block party, we can get help. So the conversation revolved around a number of different topics. And I think I've been clear, I've been resistant to the whole grant thing because I'd rather not manage it. But that said, if 3 board members want us to start doing grants, we'll figure out a way to do grants. But that was part of the conversation also. So I think it does involve grants. That question was, is it permissible for us to make grants? I think Steve document says it is. So I think that's part of the conversation too, is just revisiting that conversation. Is there a will amongst the board to have that conversation to go that direction? So right now, we're providing support in the form of in-kind donations with staff and personnel and the boxes that Chief Slice is in the process of making, but we can broaden it if the board gives us direction to do that.
And the three last bullet points under, on area two, actually all four of them. But, item B on the 2B, it said district support for a volunteer organization should serve, the public purpose of the district. The district support of a volunteer organization should be approved by or consistent with policy set by the board. And D said support of volunteer organizations should be considered consistent with board, direction. So, what I want to do and will do, because, I feel very pressured to not participate so much in this conversation, because one of those organizations in the community is one that I lead, REPAC. And so I don't want there to be an appearance, even though I wrote this, I also got it from what was provided to me by legal counsel. So, everything else from here is not necessarily, I don't know, selfish, or self-interest, as you might want to say. But I just want to direct the board to a conversation that has been around for a long time, for at least 5 years, since 2000, maybe longer. Because community groups, all of them, have requested some sort of assistance. And the chief mentioned that the district already provides some assistance, but it really depends on what is the long-term goal of community engagement. What does that entail? And I think the district is still looking into that. What does that entail? And a lot of it's going to require community engagement to a large extent. So that's what's before you right now. Does the board have any appetite for supporting community groups? And
So-
give me the hill to sign.
Yeah, so I have the appetite to do it. I mean, I think I obviously want to make sure I understand legal as to what we can and can't do, having just had this put in front of us. But assuming that it's legally option, because what's difficult for me to say when I say, yeah, I'm open-minded to it is, well, what are you contemplating? And so one approach I would recommend is, why don't we just bring the first X number of requests in front of the board? And if you're a board member that's involved in it, you recuse yourself from that particular vote on it and let the board see these things. Because what I'm uncomfortable with, we need one of two things. We either need a detailed policy of these are the kinds of things we're going to support.
Right.
Or we need to see a handful of them and say, yeah, this is consistent with what we want to do, and then we can give the chief direction.
I think both,
Well-
you need both, because one, we need to figure out you don't just go and give people money without understanding,
Right.
what is this, hold on a second. Understand what it's for, and that's built into the question. And if the board agrees that, yes, we want to do this, then I think it's really kicking it back over to the EPREP committee and begin to work out with the chief the details.
I think your ground rules are correct. I mean, it's district purpose for emergency, support. As a general, very broad set of guidelines, I think it's the right guidelines as to, kind of the types of things we should be supporting.
Well, I don't know, Gary, there's nothing that mentions any type.
Well,
But that's part of working
but
it.
that's what he's
I
saying.
know, I know.
You got to
Yes.
work out.
If the board has appetite to do it, then the EPREP committee will come back with a more formal recommendation. And I think what I'm suggesting is, I have appetite for it. I'd like to see the formal recommendation.
Yeah, I think we have brought before policy statements from that and I think you looked at it and have approved that. I know the chief worked on it and the EPREP committee have worked on it, but we're getting down to along with our fire marshal to really kind of understand what is needed, what do we support, how do community groups want to support the fire district, and those are the areas in which grants and are issued for support. That's for it. Virginia?
Robert, so I agree with Gary in terms of, you know, there's an appetite for it, but I think okay, so I know we've had the E-prep stuff, but I don't have a good grasp of what exactly it is, the direction that we're going. I mean, a grant is gonna be usually given for the purpose of something, and is it the fire district's mission? Right, and I think we have to keep in mind that, you know, this is tax dollars that we're spending, and, you know, and again, you're right, we have to define the purpose. So, I mean, like, for, like, the guidelines for a grant, and I think we have to treat this like a grant and understand that, you know, grants are for specific things around a mission statement, for example, of a nonprofit, or of a, well, foundation or whatever, right? And so, I don't know, I mean, did I miss something in terms of the E-prep document that is supposed to be the foundation for this? I may have missed that, but.
Well, you missed it, I missed it, because what I'm saying is we just need a more defined.
Right, but
what are you
what they're
talking
saying
about?
is that this is the E-prep document, the E-prep. I
We have-
guess the policies are supposed to be the foundation for,
I think the policy
is
we
that
have in
right?
place define the in-kind donations and such.
Exactly.
Yeah, but
The
we
policy
haven't,
didn't define the kinds of things we would support beyond the in-kind.
And
right, no, I know that, but that's right, so right now, does this draft,
We
does
brought
this draft
to the board.
policy?
We have brought
But we
you different
But we
policies
didn't, I know, but
and that
we
have
haven't
been worked out.
approved one of, yeah, are
No,
you
we haven't
waiting for,
approved it,
you're
but
waiting
we
for
discussed-
this to, I know, but that's the foundational document. You're saying that we need to do more work if we wanna add this component into the policy?
Well, I think all of it should work hand in hand. The policy, the existing, the goals and the directive was outlined in the report, in the last report we got from Constance and Associates.
yeah.
It starts with a question that was raised in the report, goals that were looked at. From those goals, we began to talk about certain how to achieve
No, I
certain, and
understand.
the community engagement.
How much are y'all thinking about in terms of, like, if we were to do a grant round, a first tranche, what would that money be?
I would not begin to speculate at this
From a
point.
budgetary
I would not
standpoint?
begin to speculate at this point until the board decided that's something it wants to do. Because we already been outlining, the district already has goals and objectives around community engagement. That's the key, right there, community engagement. What is community engagement? We've been trying to define that, but within the community engagement, the purpose of community engagement is somehow engaging the community in a simplistic format. And how is that gonna take it? It's taking place right now in terms of our workshops, emergency preparedness workshop. What other activities on community engagement needs to take place or should take place? Doing an disaster and with the community.
It would be like ADAPT asking us or the fire district to provide Xeroxing of 300,
Like
Atherton-
flyers to pass out for an exercise or something, right?
Atherton has a handbook that they've formulated. And, you know, if Atherton came to us or ADAPT came to us, says, we like this handbook and we want 300 copies. And they come to the fire district to make those copies. And, you know, the chief and
That's the
his staff will review and says, well, this is a monetary quantum leap. We need to bring it to the board. So we get it as an agenda item saying that ADAPT wants us to spend so many
But-
dollars in order to make a copy of their Atherton handbook that they have.
So would this be a cost sharing thing? Like, why wouldn't Atherton, the town of Atherton also?
They don't have anyone.
I know, but then like even like try to contribute to
Well,
some of
then,
that.
well,
I mean,
then we can
I
deny
don't know, I'm
it.
just asking the
Right,
question.
right, then we can deny it and say, let Atherton pay.
Before we can get to that question, before we can get, that's a valid question, because some cities require nonprofit organization, when they come to them, you know, I'm kind of lay it out here, kind of put my heart on the table.
Be careful.
We have currently, when I say we, I'm talking about our group REPAC, is currently have working in got funded, from the city of Palo Alto, the group called, YCS, Youth Community Services. They work with a lot of youth in Palo Alto, Menlo Park, East Palo Alto, and the city. That's all they do, community, citizenship engagement is what they're all about. They're very good at that. They have hundreds of you run around all over the place. We have went in partnership with them on a project to teach young folk, 14 to 18, about disaster preparedness. And we're following the, thanks to the chief and thanks to Heather, we have got the program structured that's following the Teen Cert program. And so the city have given us grant. I mean, we asked for one, they give us a smaller grant. So that's where the partnership between the city and the community group, REPAC in our case, was important for them to get it in terms of because of a relationship with emergency preparedness or group of men and women who are prepared. It was very helpful for them. And so we structured the program around that. So part of a qualification for any group, as I see it, that what relationships and what funding are you getting from your city to match this as a way of a partnership with the city? Because some cities like Athens and East Palo Alto, they don't have a lot of money. Menlo Park maybe have, I don't know, but I think most cities have funding programs, have funds for certain programs. So it's about the board coming up with those criteria that the organization would have.
One-time funding thing, or?
Well, it could be whatever we could set it up any way that we want, if we gotta have the desire to wanna do that.
No,
And
I
then
don't
allow-
think you have to, I think you have to separate desire to
No,
do that
no, you
versus
do. The board,
reality.
the desire for the board is having a willingness to want to do this. If they see, hey, yeah, this is something we want to fund. Because it's been around, like I said, I've been on this board for over 6 years, and we've been talking about it. And the biggest, how we have not moved from one step to the other is the whether funds, where the district is gonna give people funds. I know Chuck was talking about it several years ago about, and I'm sure this group is still talking about it too. So that's the desire, what I'm saying, the board.
I think a year ago or so, we made a pretty firm, decision that we didn't want to do it.
I didn't hear that.
Well,
I would stop.
I don't think it was firm in the sense of, it was a voted thing, it was a directional thing, it's what led to the E-prep policy doing the in-kind capability.
Right.
And what I hear you asking is there an appetite from the board to revisit that? And start some form of grant program where we would actually fund community groups for certain activities? And, my answer, yeah, I'm open-minded about it, subject to seeing the detail of what you have in mind.
No, wait, let me
But
stop.
I don't think I was open-minded to a year ago, because I didn't know where the money would go.
Well, let me put it, it's not about what I want, it's
No,
about what benefiting the
district.
the district and the community. I'm just saying, it's, so some people may have that impression, it's just Bob thing, it's not. It's about the signals that I'm getting, I have gotten over the years about what community groups wanted to have and what the limitation of the district displaying that it has about funding. And it's all about philosophical perspective, so.
I was gonna suggest, I think in some ways we're overthinking this whole thing. And it might be, one of the things we're trying to do is have community engagement. And you don't get community engagement by telling the community what it wants and what to do. You get it from the community themselves, that's how you get engagement. And what I was gonna recommend is, since the thing that's talked about the most right here is something related to preparedness. Why don't we put out a request for proposals for anybody, any group, person, whatever, in terms of ideas for community engagement. And see what kinds of proposals we get. We can look at them and we can listen to other people's ideas, and then we can say, ooh, you know what, that might be a little too self-serving, let's put a frame around that. Some limits on it, and others might be, oh, what a great idea, maybe we could get everybody to do it or something. But I'd like to see it come from the ground up, that to me is community engagement.
That's a good point, John.
Not from the top down where we say, this is what we want. I mean, none of us could put out a list of what we want right now. I mean, but I think from the ground up, we get these ideas and we get excited about
That
them.
makes a lot of sense.
That's why I was suggesting the first few of,
Yeah.
just let the proposals flow and bring
Yeah.
them
Y'all are
back.
Bring them
saying-
to us.
y'all are saying
Bring them
the
back
same
to the
thing.
board for consideration.
Right, y'all are saying the same
Yeah.
thing, and if that's the direction y'all wanna go, I'm happy to at least to look at this and see what we get. Because that may actually help determine the policies that we put in for, or the guidelines for potential grant, and they are to be grants. Right,
And we could put a limit on it, I'm just making up a number, so we don't want more than 10,000 or more than 25,000, or whatever it is.
you mean for the total amount that we send out,
No,
not for organization.
For each organization.
Yeah, I like your idea, just let them flow to the
Yeah,
board
that's
without
what y'all are on
restriction,
the same
without
page.
definition, and see what kinds of proposals we get. You know, we don't have, we're under no obligation to accept them.
How about assigning that to one of the committee, either finance or emergency
Good.
preparedness?
Do you want it to go back to committee, or do you want us from this point to put out a solicitation, as Chuck suggested? You know, without any restrictions, saying
I
that,
think that's, I wouldn't do that.
You know,
I would come back and say,
do you wanna bring it back to the
this is the
committee?
ground rules under which.
I mean, you have to,
under
you
which
have to be
the-
within the fire district mission, or the, as you
Well,
said, the
well,
public purpose here.
I think Robert actually did a decent job
Yeah.
defining
Well,
the
he
ground
said
rules, so
public purpose.
within these ground rules, it's, you know, we're gonna,
Yeah.
if somebody comes to Chief Slice and his team asking about it, you say, yeah, here's the ground rules, if you meet this, put a request into and we'll take it forward to our board for consideration.
and if you ever work with foundation, I'm sure probably many of you have been, that they have a list of, here's what we fund. Here's our philosophy, and here's what we
Well,
fund.
and so, but the thing
Can I
is,
finish?
there's no
Hold on,
philosophy
hold on.
here.
And as a result, you know, people self-select whether they don't apply or not. If it doesn't fit in the criteria, then they don't, because they know they're gonna get rejected.
Right, but we don't have the criteria yet, right?
Right.
The ground rules are not the criteria.
I can agree, I think my preference would be for it to go back to the EPREP committee to just define a set of, you know, kind of a set of the kinds of things that we're open to. Or put the parameters around it that the grant has to.
We can do that.
encompass.
Right,
Well, I think that's where the chief and fire marshal and his team have started to do that. If you look at the last documents, several documents we
with the policies.
brought to you around the narrow, understanding what our creating a statement, policy statement, and then creating a whole host of areas in which community engagement activities were kind of somewhat defined. And so just need to narrow that down a little bit more as it may relate to each, the individually for each community, come up with a set of areas where we, you know, hey, we will fund this, we will fund that in this area, that area. So yeah, I think that's where the next step in this process is.
I think what's changed is if you look
We've
back,
already worked on.
Robert, I think what's changed is if you look back a year or 2 years ago, we didn't really even have a definition of what our own community engagement program was going to do. I think now with a good couple of years with Heather, and Amadee and now Chief Slice, all kind of contributing now to the process, I think we're starting to get a definition of the kinds of services that group can provide that are helpful to the community. There's been lots of CPR programs, Stop the Bleed, the firehouse visits, the other, you know, corporate trainings that we've done, all these different things to help preparedness. And so this to me is just kind of a logical next step, but I think just the same, it needs some definition.
Sure.
As to what you're contemplating.
Absolutely.
So and And I don't think it would be a good idea to just broadly put out a request for grants without some very specific guidelines, of kinds of things that we really
Because I mean,
support.
it could be a slippery slope to nowhere where we're just like, oh, if it doesn't fit, we're not giving out money, then we get criticized. If we give out money that doesn't really match what we are trying to accomplish, then we get criticized. So, and it's.
Well, it seems arbitrary if there's no
Right.
documents behind it.
Yeah, exactly.
And if there's no philosophy or policy behind it, it's just a wasted effort. And that's
That's right.
part of trying to get to, that's why we went through and created statements and got from the consultant reports, which is pretty much kind of defining what the strategic plan for the district and narrowing it down to where we are right now, to whether the board have an appetite. If the board has an appetite, then we'll take it further.
I know, I wish we had gotten this earlier. This should have been in the packet with this item. If this were part of this, because it would have been a lot easier to read all of this instead of getting it as a desk item. So I'm just saying that when we move forward, we should have something in front of us in advance so we can actually critique it and analyze it and do all the things that, you know, we need to do to make sure that this program would be credible. So if we can do that in the future, I think that would be helpful for me.
So,
I was just gonna say, I don't think we have to worry about making a mistake here. If we put out an RFP and we get things that don't make sense, we can go back and say, you know what, we don't know, we didn't know what we didn't know, now we know. And we're gonna refine it, we're gonna narrow it down and rewrite it, and we'll reissue it in 2 weeks. And nobody's gonna be unhappy with that.
so it all began with, if there's appetite for the board to move in that direction, then
I think if there's
Well,
appetite
there's
for
three
the
or
board to
four people
look at it.
supported it, Robert.
I mean, that's plain and simple. If you-
No, I think that there's appetite
I think
for
yes,
us to look
I
at
think the
this.
question is, does staff have enough to go on
You
to
know,
create the materials to come back to the.
I think it'd be helpful for us to meet with the E-Prep committee and get some guidance
That's what I
on
think.
what the scope is, and it could be need-based grants, or they, all kinds of things.
We do that.
We just have lots of questions that we can ask, and then we can put that out.
There you go.
But I think
So-
when you come back to the board, I would like to have the document in front of us
Have a staff
before.
We will, yes, we will
Before-
come back.
well,
Before we
especially
put it out,
when it comes-
consistent with the committee.
Well, but also because this is going to call for a budget change, or we're actually gonna be spending money. And I don't think it's fair to the public if we don't have information in advance before so we can actually talk about it to people who are not on the E-Prep committee. So that's all I ask for, is just to make sure that we have a staff report and that the public could access too. Because this looks like we're hiding something and we're not trying to hide anything.
Whoa. Okay.
No, and this, I will
No,
say.
I'm not saying you're
for that-
right.
No,
that
I
was-
understand.
That's more than me, I thought, to be honest, I thought it was gonna be a discussion and it was just gonna quietly go away, and it's not, so. That's.
You thought the board was just gonna say pound sand, we
I'm
don't
like,
wanna give away money.
no, I'm like, oh, if the board changes direction, I'm good,
Well,
the board's changed direction, so I'm good.
To your defense, we had that policy statement that you drew up, those 5 pages, a few meetings ago, so we did have a background of it. I mean,
But we will have a
but we
thorough,
will meet again.
we'll have a thorough conversation, get some direction, we'll come to the board with a staff report that outlines kind of the parameters of what a grant program could look like, and you guys can put your fingerprints on it, and we can massage it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, great.
And please include just a little bit of legal in this discussion, because
Yes.
if you do award a grant,
agree.
you'll need to do so pursuant to an agreement that will protect the district from,
From being-
insurance, indemnities.
Or gift
We'll
of public
forward it to you.
funds.
Well,
So
I'm not
legal.
talking about before you even, that's before you even award it, that you're awarding it properly, but that the grant should be administered in a legally protected
Right, I
fashion for the
agree.
district.
That's why I would like a staff report at the
Process
next
matters.
meeting and not a desk item.
You'll have one.
Okay,
We'll seek your guidance.
Appreciate it.
So,
Provided.
And I just
Move
wanna
on.
make sure
Hold on.
I'm not saying anyone's trying to hide something.
hold
But
on. I
when
get- I
we're
get-
not getting at this,
Yeah.
we're not prepared to even talk
Yeah.
about
Well,
it.
I understand sometimes when you're out of the loop, you just don't know, and so we're
That's
trying to
right.
bring you into
And
the
we
loop.
represent the public, so that's all.
You're
I'm
now on
saying.
item 10 of the agenda.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you, Gary. Item number 10, proposed agenda item.
I have one.
Yes, go ahead.
So it's with regard to the primary response route and, just what are we doing to collaborate with the cities or developers or any of the other stakeholders? And, how are we enforcing our code for traffic calming devices vis-a-vis the fire code and local ordinances, and most importantly, our primary response route. So I'd love to see an item, maybe Gage can kind of guide us on what the item should be in his eye too, but like, can we do like an audit of our primary response routes? To see if we need to add any more, how do we enforce that, how are we collaborating with the cities? I'm just worried about.
So this part should just be the.
Yes, it-
agenda item title that you wanna bring back
Oh,
next
okay.
month.
Okay,
And you can bring more definitions
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
it in the discussion
Yeah,
next month as
so-
to what it is you would like to discuss.
oh, got it.
So this is
Forget
just
it.
the,
This is just,
this
yes.
is the title.
Yes, okay, so I guess, I don't know, I just wrote this when we were talking about
I
the
think it's,
code.
you have a discussion about traffic.
The
calm.
traffic calming devices, vis-a-vis the fire code, our stakeholders, our local, and local ordinances and our primary response routes.
Okay, any other items? Chuck?
I would like to include as an option, not necessary, but as an option for proposed agenda items, that a date for the item to be brought back could be proposed if we wanted to. I note that some of these things are very important that we have on our list that haven't gotten yet. And some of them have been sitting on here for a whole year already. In fact, almost all of them have been sitting here for a year, and very few of them have actually made it to the agenda.
So what's your agenda item?
I'm gonna call it proposed dates for agenda items, or proposed agenda items.
So in the interest of efficiency and saving you some time if possible, I believe you already have that ability under your current rules. The default rule is that when you do vote on putting an item on the agenda, you doing so in a non-time specific fashion, that the chief has some measure of control as to when.
With the president.
With the president as to when it comes back. But there's nothing stopping you, for instance, next week when you have the discussion on the item that Director Chancarelli just brought up, she could say, I move that we consider traffic calming devices and that it be done at the meeting on December 18th. So there's no reason under your current rules why you can't require a specific time. It's just that the default rule is that you defer to the chief and the board president.
Oh, that's the default.
Yes,
That's
yeah.
it, the way the board policy.
So that's my ignorance, I'm sorry. Then what I'm saying is not necessary as long as that can be done. For some reason, I had the impression that it was not permitted.
I think Director Bloom is the expert on these rules, so if I'm wrong, please correct me.
No,
But I
that's
think
right.
I think you're correct from when
No,
the
that's
board
right.
policy was changed.
But there is something, we could always vote, like Steve said, to say, oh, we want this on, at the
Well,
October,
yeah.
whatever board
I
meeting.
think
we do a
there's an
date
over-
certain.
There's an overriding thing that was there always, which I think Nicole did a really good job of articulating to the board at the time, which is the board at any time can override anything in the board policy. It's not it's a policy, but the board from any action along the way can say, well, we're gonna bypass the policy and go with X. And she made that clear. So this would be an example where I believe the general policy was set up that the timing of an item would be at the discretion of the chief and the, coordination between the chief and the president of the board at the time. But in the event that somebody wants to override that and say, except for this item, I want it on this date, the policy always envision that because it's just a policy.
Okay, good, thank you.
Any other items? If not, we'll move on to.
So Dr. Bernstein, you no longer have a proposed agenda item.
No, it's already active.
Needs to exert his muscle on the items.
And I will share, Director Bernstein, we'll see how the special board meeting study session goes. There's a couple items on there that were potentials for discussion there, the electrification and the whole thing with Palo Alto Airport. If we're gonna have more meetings, we might deal with those there. If not, I will get those resolved before the end of the calendar year.
Great.
There's
So-
not much time.
It's not much time.
Time is running out.
But if I can get it done, they're not hard.
And it's okay if we can't get them all done this year, that's what we got next year, so next president may be,
All we got is
Yeah.
time.
oh, we got it time. Report requests, and requests, committee reports. Emergency prep, I think we
I
have
think
talked
we
about.
discussed that today.
Discussed that today. Facilities,
Facilities did not meet.
human resource,
Did not meet.
finance,
So finance, I have just one item that didn't get covered as part of the normal motions, you know, which included the monthly financial reports and all that, investment gains, everything else. And that's that the committee did have a discussion with our outside advisor about our liquid cash. And so on a periodic basis, the committee reviews the cash requirements that we have visibility to pay, make payroll, make budget. And then that determines the allocation that we put into the investment account to try to earn higher interest rates on that investment account. So we periodically revisit the distribution between what's our real liquid cash needs and how much do we have invested. And we did that this time. It happened to come up at this meeting, and the staff was authorized by the committee for the policies that we have to go ahead and increase the
amount.
invested cash based on our liquid cash needs. It's not necessarily making it unreachable. We can still get to that money. It's just that we're taking a longer term view on a slightly larger amount. And some of the things that were considered were things like payroll, near-term expenses. We looked at, you know, kind of when would the real expenses of the Station One project, major capital projects start coming into play. Reality is, we're a couple of years away from any significant expenses from that. So as our cash reserves continue to build from property taxes, setting aside more and more money, just makes more sense to keep it more heavily invested. Investment returns are very
Just
good.
close to
We
6%
continue to
for the year.
do, you know,
Yeah.
with a low risk mindset.
What percentage are we going to?
Do you remember, that? I didn't jot down the
What
exact
did we
numbers
go
we
into
concluded
in
to.
terms of?
So there's really no set percentage, so basically what we do is, on a yearly basis, we do a cash flow analysis, like an
Yeah.
historical cash flow analysis, by considering, what, our future needs are, whether it's the current operating needs, what we need for capital projects, if there are any unanticipated expenses. So based on that, we kind of come up with, a plan, based on, again, the current, numbers that we have with the current portfolio that, right now, the optimal, allocation between, our liquid portfolio and our core portfolio would be, for the core portfolio would be like $100 million, $101 million, which is probably about an additional $21 million from what we currently have right now. So basically that's, what, we're going through right now, trying to actually invest more on a periodic basis. Like I think we agreed on having it 7 billion in span of like 60 days. To actually deploy that funds to the, the core portfolio. And then as, Director Bill mentioned, when I say like liquid, like the short-term one versus the core portfolio, which is the longer-term one, but it's not really like long. Our duration, and with our investments, it's really about like, it's 1 to 3 years, but right now it's in 1.7 years. So technically speaking, we still have that flexibility, to actually withdraw those funds if ever we need it. But right now we're just trying to take advantage of, the interest rates and then the current market, especially tomorrow. I mean, if there's gonna be some sort of a cut, with the, the Feds, then, we at least, invested more money, beforehand, before that happens. And then we're just trying to actually stick with, our, current policy and current strategy, which, we have authority to actually do so. So that's basically, what we, discuss, during the finance.
It looks like we've been investing about 50%, is that?
Right now it's about, no, it's more than that.
It's
though.
way
It's
more than that.
Because right now our portfolio, I would say it's about $150 million, like our cash and investment is about like $150 million, including our investment in Opel, which is about $7.5 million. But once we have all of this, with our current funding, I think it's probably gonna be like 2/3 of it, pretty much with our investment portfolio. But the rest of it doesn't mean that we're not investing it, we're still investing it. like, we're still investing it in like the short term, like we're still earning money on, the rest, like that $50 million. Like really right now, our principle or, our current, procedure is really, we only really keep like, like enough money to fund like, 15 days worth of like expenses and payroll, because we time it with our payroll, with, our like, bank, like, operating account pretty much. And the rest, like, we're pretty much like invested in all of them. So you can basically say that, like for our operating expenses, we keep like 0% or to 1% or maybe to 2% like, cash like for operating expenses.
I looked at it very personally, but it seems like it's very rare that our outflow exceeds our inflow. Seems like we're financing ourselves with current cash all the time.
Historically.
Elaine, hang on one second. Just remind you, this is supposed to be a report from the
Right.
finance committee. So-
Yeah, so the only last part of the report I give is two things. One is
Thank you.
the split of those numbers is visible to you in the 2-page summary of the, from the
The
investment,
executive summary.
the executive summary from investors that is always in the packet. And then secondly, we're not trying to do market timing. So we don't try to say, oh, today's a good day, let's put all this money in. It's always spread out over a period of time to mitigate market risk.
And the investment
That's the-
manager actually commended us for being very disciplined, so our annual, our ROI probably this year will be, he's estimating just under 6%, 5.98.
Liaison reports, Town of Atherton.
Town of Atherton, their meetings tomorrow, they did not have a meeting last month, regular meeting.
City of East Palo Alto, I have no report. City of New Park,
I don't have a report there.
County, District 3. County Seventh District 4. I have no report on that either.
Rob, you have a
Then-
report.
Emergency Cemetery. Pre-hospital.
Well, we were supposed to meet tomorrow. And we got a notice, right, Chief, that we're not meeting. What kind of confused me is that, they want to raise our funding and that's up in the air, but we didn't meet. The last meeting, we talked about Measure K funding. And there's about 35 million, well, we were told there was 45 million, but now it's down to 35 million. And a lot of it's allocated for housing. And it was supposed to be for law enforcement and public safety. So that kind of confused me too. But in any case, we didn't meet, or we're not going to meet on Wednesday. It looks like we're not meeting till the beginning of the year. But to update you, the contract isn't due till 2029. So they have, thank you, that's all I had to report.
San Francisco Creek Joint Power.
Yeah, yes, so I met with Palo Alto Councilmember Greer Stone, who chairs the Creek JPA, and I mean, it's the first time we've met, and he just reiterated some of the information that he and Margaret Bruce have and that they've presented to the city council. So I kind of watched that during the East Palo Alto Council meeting of the presentation that Margaret Bruce did. And they're looking forward to presenting to us when we're ready.
Reports of directors.
I have a couple of little things.
Good.
So I want to congratulate our firefighters for winning the People's Choice at the annual chili cook-off. Chris Denenbaum must have been cooking, right? So congratulations to Team Menlo Fire. And also for the TCU fire, the one in Tuolumne, Calaveras County, where they had about like 3,600 lightning strikes, something like that in that area. Anyway, I know that our team our theme team, or I guess the OES was deployed to Murphy's. I think they were staging near Murphy's, and so my friend who owns Ironstone Winery called me and said, oh, some of your firefighters are like at the bottom of our property and we just want to thank them. So you can just thank the team. They were, a lot of my friends up there were very, very grateful. That's all I have.
Any other reports from directors?
Thank you.
Okay, there's no president report, so I would say that we adjourn it. Hey.
Thank you.
Actually, 9:52.
9:50.
Our clock is
I don't know what you guys.
53 now.
So Rod,